Welcome, welcome, welcome. Angelica. I got a cousin named Angelica. Welcome, 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 YouTube family and TikTok family. We're going to have a very interesting topic here today. I will try not to keep you long. We have just dropped a brand new topic over there and a new resource about fire spirits. And I thought I would come here and address fire spirits since a lot of us like working with fire. We're working with candles, we're working with incense. Okay. So at some point, fire comes up, and it is a natural element and it can be used in our workings. And we're always using these elements, but we don't slow down to think about how they are helping us in our magic. So today we're going to be talking about fire spirits and jinns. So a book that you got over there today was basically about jinns because that is the only book that I could find really dedicated to fire spirits alone. Because again, these cultures, the Arabic culture, recognize them as jinn. That's the name that they were given, and just the early history of fire spirits that is documented seem to be with this culture. But you can also see these fire spirits in our culture as well, in our workings and hoodoo as well. So you can recognize it and you can work better with these spirits. Those of you um, that's in the conjure membership, you probably have more information when it comes to dealing with fire spirits because again, some of these elemental spirits have been put in the categories. They have put elemental spirits in the category of of goetic spirits or either demons. Okay, you'll see that. Okay, they did your ancestors like that. So, because when we go into demonology, you will see they have some. They have Elegba, Ishu. They have some your ancestors' deities listed as demons, and we know they're not. We know they're not, but that's how these folks have listed it. Okay, and so this is why we're having this discussion. Hello, hello, African no hyphen. Welcome, 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 YouTube family. Welcome, 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 TikTok family. This is the way they have them listed. And so we have to look at them, and I apologize they're listed like that, but that is the way they have them listed. Not looking at the fact that these deities or spirits are more ancestral than anything, and that's why you're having a difficulties working with them because you think you can command. And so when Western occultists find that they can't command or demand a spirit or control a spirit, then they will deem them demonic instead of getting in alignment with working with the spirit. They would rather have something that can complete control. I mean, if you go through there and you look through the work yourself and you do your own, you make your own decision on that. But that is just from my perspective because that's what that look like. Because you can control and demand and command the spirit, and you can see that uh, throughout all their summoning their spirits or working with spirits, they use a sort of command demand when working with spirits. They're commanding them and demanding them, and it is my opinion is this is where you go wrong. Because you want that spirit, right? You want to work with that spirit. Why are you demanding and commanding somebody to come to you instead of letting it unfold and being consistent with petitioning the spirit? You'll see that. Okay, and our ancestors did not use that approach when it came to working with spirits. We used a entirely different approach, and you'll see that among these books when it comes to conjuring, working with spirits. That is why I give you a guidebook, and we follow more of a spiritism. If you don't know anything about spiritism, we take a spiritism approach. Okay, we set up tables and we start sitting at those tables, petitioning them and waiting for any sort of contact or interaction. Or we do divination. Okay? We continue to petition them until they get to the table. They gonna come. You just keep petitioning. Let the relationship unfold because they're watching you and looking at consistency other than, using the Western approach. They have used this approach, especially for beginners, have used this approach and I don't think it's a safe approach to do it that way. Hello, Tina. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. So let's dive in here. Let's talk about fire spirits. And so you'll see fire spirits appear in cultures across the world, powerful, volatile intelligence that embody transformation, destruction, purification, and life giving spark. From African fire deities to Celtic hearth spirits, from volcanic guardians in the Polynesia to biblical seraphim, because seraphim are told to be sort of like fire looking spirits as well, fire looking angels. Okay. Nearly every ancient society recognized distinct entities made of or ruling over fire. And so when you start going into conjure, you would start running into these what are they calling them? They're more like kings and queens over their elemental spheres. Okay. We get deeper with that we're gonna keep it light here. Okay, just so you'll have an idea um, of fire spirits, and there is a dimension, there is a realm for fire spirits. For every element that you see, there is a realm. They got their own realm, their own dimension that they exist solely in, but they have the power to affect our reality. Fire is very mysterious as well. Wind and fire, I think, are the most mysterious to me because you can't really hold or touch them or pick them up like that. You can see them. I mean, you can feel like wind. You can feel the wind, but you can't see it. Okay, with the fire, you can see the fire, but you can't pick that fire up and hold it and do stuff with it hands on because you'll hurt yourself. Okay, so I think they're very, very supernatural elements. I don't think that we give them much thought because we don't give it much thought. But without those two, human life would be, without wind or oxygen, we wouldn't be here. Okay, and with fire and without warmth, a lot of us wouldn't survive. Need fire to purify, to bring on transformation, and of course, the soul is made of a refined fire. Okay, so let's go on here. Among most of the documented influential fire spirits in the historical record of Jinn is thought the term Jinn. Okay, and this means unseen, or unseen spirit. Because when you get into Jinn, because I was going down this hole because I just thought Jinn were fire spirits, but when you start to look at other cultures, especially the Arabic culture, jinn starts to have a broader meaning. Jinn is you start seeing them name elemental spirits, period, as jinn, ghosts as jinn, demons as jinn. So you see this broad category starts to take form in Arabic culture with the terminology jinn. So when you get your book, you're going to see that. When I was reading that material, I was like, okay, and then look going down the rabbit hole doing my research on it. What is a jinn? Either a jinn is a fire spirit or it is a ghost or what? Because it sounds like a haint to me. Then it sounds like a fire spirit. Then it sounds like a sylph. So what I've noticed in the Arabic culture, although they do have the earliest, document of fire spirits, it kind of gets out of hand with identifying or Jinn. So you have to be very specific when you're reading that book. So when they're describing the attributes and characteristics of some of these Jinn, you have to ask yourself, is this a fire spirit or this is another elemental spirit? Because you're putting it in a broader category. See how people just start naming stuff? Because when you start looking at ancient cultures, what were they calling them? It is a total different thing. When you're looking at other cultures from abroad, okay? So now, that's why I say you need to look at some of this stuff because people are putting names on stuff. And then when you start looking at it, like, okay, this is not that at all. This is not what this appears to be like this. They are trying to name something they don't know what it is. So they're just putting names on stuff. Okay? So you'll see that uh it is now globally associated with Islamic cosmology. Jinn is associated with Islamic cosmology. The idea originated long before Islam and once referred to a wide range of invisible spirits, not a single race of beings. But within this broad family, there is a specific category intimately linked with fire. Okay, so even though they've given it this broad meaning, because now they're calling ghost Jinn, you know, I'm only specific in one sort of Jinn, and that is the ones among the fire spirits, the ones that were supposed to be made from smokeless fire. That's what they say they are. They say that they're made from smokeless fire. They were some of the first being that was created with fire. Okay. Fire spirits appear universally because fire is one of the humanity's oldest teachers. Every tradition recognized that fire was alive in some moving, consuming, breathing, and transforming everything it touched. Across these traditions, fire spirits are seen as powerful but morally neutral, capable of protection or harm depending on human intention and relationship. Okay? So again, these power and when you if you over there in the conjure um over there in that conjure membership and you getting this information, you have a book that's already there. I recommend before you start going, because you're going to get you should have gotten a book to work with these sort of spirits. Now I want to slow it down here. I don't recommend that you jump into here if you haven't went over your summoning spirits book. I need you to go over there and look at that because it gives you more details before it and it gives you details on how to enter these realms and work more insight on how to work with this sort of energy. If you're in the conjurer to know thyself, you need to slow down and go back and look at that book we have. And of course I think I gave it somewhere uh on this YouTube channel somewhere for free, but anywho, you need to go through that book first, okay? Before you dive into the Jinn guidebook I gave you. That way you have more insight on there because in that book it teaches you how to enter those realms. It teaches you how to enter those elemental realms, and it teaches you how to communicate with these spirits and give you more insight of who they are. Okay? Sense. So if it doesn't make sense, go back and look at your summoning spirits book because you just got your Jinn book. Look at that book first. Go through that book first because they got them listed as goetic spirits. Some of them, they like I just said, they have some of the elementals because what happens here, and I just go through that when I talked about angels, is when these magicians get over here and they find out they cannot manipulate these energies like this and making pacts with these spirits, and these spirits stop working for them and they can't command these spirits anymore, and they're not able to keep their part of the contract with the spirit, and these magicians get all jacked up, then they want to deem it evil. But if you would have kept your side of the contract and stopped trying to do raggedy stuff with these spirits, Hide the the fancy. Uh, you stop trying to do stuff like that. If you were trying to use it to develop and perfect your stuff and find that inside you, instead of trying to use this spirit like that, then you wouldn't have got in that pickle like that. And that's what you'll find when you get start coming in contact with this energy. It can be mesmerizing. It can be very impressionable when you start making contact with these spirits. But you got to remember, you have to look at yourself uh, on an equal footing as them. You can't see them as too much above you, because these uh these spirits, again, is a part of you as well. Okay? Look at it as a more as a partnership rather than you trying to, you know, worship them or get mesmerized by their power. Because some of them, they're very fascinating. Okay? And it can be very impressionable. And the person, the practitioner, needs to have some sort of self-control if you're gonna continue to have a relationship with them. The more balance you can have with working with these energies, the better the more success you're gonna have. But when you start getting out of hand with that, even when you go into that summoning and spirits book, and if you start doing path working and going to these different realms, I'm going to tell you, don't stay in those realms that long, because they can be mesmerizing. They can be very impressionable. Okay. And so you can find yourself going back more than you need to. But this is about building relationships with them and not abusing their assistance. Hey, how are you? I'm doing fine. Hi, Prince Charming, 1998. Sis, where you come from? Uh, can I come see you? I'm in Thailand, sweetheart. Okay. I'm in Thailand. So again, you have to be very careful. But we use them every day. Okay. And we have them in, like I've told you, we have many of our ancestors that have been, uh, what I'm trying to say, that are recognized through these energies. Because you'll see that among African diaspora and some of our spiritual practices, that you see our ancestors, you can see them active throughout some of these elements. And this is going to make sense in a minute as we move on. Okay. Several cultural, environmental, and physical reasons, fire and heat were forces of nature that seem alive. They are alive. Like I tell you in Hoodoo, everything is alive. Every element that you're picking up, that you're working with in your magic, is alive. That's why we're using it, because we understand the energy of all the tools and the elements that we are using in our magic to create a reality, to do shifting, to tip the scales. So we understand that. Okay, our ancestors understand that. The unseen beings believed to inhabit this environment naturally took on the qualities of fire itself, explaining the long standing association between jinn and fire. So, in the pre Arabian, before Arabic culture, pre Arabic culture, their beliefs, the nomadic tribes, they believed that the fire spirits was desert spirits. That makes sense. Since it's so hot there, maybe these were hot spirits. Okay. Then you have some thought that was ruined spirits, sand wind entities, because you'll have them in two, explaining jinn to be more wind like. Okay, and you're seeing that book. You're asking yourself, is this a sylph, a wind spirit? So you are seeing the term being applied to a broader, to a variety of spirits instead of just fire spirits. So I want to make you aware of that before you dive into that book, that the book that all of us are getting, the legend of fire spirits. I need that spell. Can you help me? No, I absolutely cannot help you. I cannot help you with no spell. Mm-mm. You should know how to do it. Why you Need help. Okay. The word jinn did not exist, but the spirits that would later be called jinn were already a part of the landscape. So you have this Arabic culture, I have to say it, these different cultures coming in here, things are shifting. So now they are calling these spirits jinn. The root word jinn means to conceal or to hide. Emerges in the language spirits of unseen world begin to be a broadly called jinn. Okay, fire spirits are recognized through flashes of fire, lightning, and desert heat entities. So you'll see that happen. You'll see them being called different names and see. I like to go back and see what they were called before we start calling them jinn and these other names, because that lets me know if you're giving them a broader term. And it's not a fire spirit, it's every spirit now. Where did this term come from? That let me know somebody made that up. And what was they calling them before you start calling them this name? Okay. And so when we start looking at Jen, you have a presentation over there when we start looking at Jen. And so they have broken them down. I'm going to talk about them because I see three or four categories, because they said not all Jinn are bad, but uh, there are some that are questionable. And so when I start listening to them and reading and observing their experience with Jinn and them talking about the characteristics and the attributes of Jinn, you start to see they have a lot of human like personalities. They are just beings. They're individuals with, that was created out of fire. Okay? They are just as flawed as humans. That's what I want to say here. That's what it sounds like. When you get to listening to how they describe them, say, oh, they're just as flawed as humans then. They make independent choices. Some of their choices be right, some of them be wrong. Some of them do regular stuff, some of them do good stuff. Okay? Not to say they was bad. We can look at the same thing with Shango. Look at Shango. Let's look at Shango sometime was known as a promiscuous man. Okay? He had all his wives. He had his wives putting witchcraft and stuff on him because he was making poor choices. Do we still call on Shango? Is Shango still good for a lot of stuff? Absolutely. But we can't, the mist in the Pataki, they're letting you know. And what is Shango? Shango is a fire spirit. Yeah. Shango is a fire spirit. So when I'm looking at the Jinn, I'm looking at them talking about it, I'm like, okay, this explains the personality of Shango too. Very impulsive. Shango is a true Aries. When you look at some of the things he do, you're like, okay, he got some of that Aries energy going on with him. Okay, you're looking at that fire energy in him, the passion in him, the impulsivity in him, the motion in him. Does this make sense to you? Yeah, Raquel, I wasn't here last night. I took a break. I'll be taking breaks and now and then just discussing. I thought I would come here and talk about this particular topic because our community is getting this book, and it could be a little confusing because the way there are have categorized Jinn. Now, Jinn is just anything supernatural, a ghost, a haint, an elemental spirit. It's all of that. So, I had to come here and talk about this so you'll understand while we're looking at this, because we're looking at the documented history of fire spirits. That's what we're looking at. Not really interested in with other stuff. Okay. Does this make sense to you? It's going to make sense as we go on. So I just gave you one instance when we're looking at a fire spirit, when we look at Shango, excuse me, we're looking at these elemental spirits, ancestral spirits among our ancestors. and to help you understand how some of our ancestors can be recognized through some of these elemental spirits. Is that making sense to you? I hope I haven't lost anyone. I'm trying to break it down as simple as I can for you. Do you understand? Okay. Okay. What that no mean? Do you not understand it? Okay, I hope I haven't lost anyone. Okay, so we're gonna move on. So we start looking at again. Okay, okay, all right. Okay, I hope you're getting it because Angel Bi said they following. I'm following. I hope that means you're getting it. Okay. So again, because Jinn is such a broad term, I just said that. So we're gonna look at the merit. They have categorized them in 3 or 4 different areas. And if you're on our platform, I've already given you the presentation on that, but we're going to cover it again here. They have merit, often considered a proud, powerful type of jinn. Some medieval texts describe merits as connected to water, but earlier folklore associated with them with firestorms and raw elemental forces. So this is how the medieval that era is describing them. So you're seeing the gene being associated with weather, with storms, raw elemental forces they're calling merit. Okay, then they have the infrared, perhaps the clearest examples of fire spirits within lore. Again, they're having the infrared described as massive beings of smoking and smokeless fire. Now that's what we want to look for. That's what I'm talking about over there. How to work with these genes. Okay, so if you're in conjure, and don't be looking at, oh, Miss Penn, I can't believe you gave me this. This is what you said you wanted. You want to understand this. They're in your summoning spirits book too, but now I'm focused on a particular type of spirit now and giving you their attributes and characteristics. No one said you had to use it. At least you know about it. You don't have to use it. Okay. Just because I give it to you don't mean you have to use it. At least you know about it. If you wanted to do it, you could, because now you have all the information and insight more on these spirits. And then two, you can understand more about the spirits, fire spirits as well, looking at these characteristics. Okay. So again, these are big, massive being. And again, if you're going to be working with fire, when you're working with these deities, you got to remember these are hot spirits. These are hot spirits. So they will have an impact on your temperament. You're going to feel a lot of aggression. You do that with the spirit of Mars too. Mars has that same type of energy. Mars, when you're working with Mars energy, those are fire spirits. Those are hot spirits. They're going to be very aggressive, very fast. Okay. So when you working with, if you're gonna particularly be working with these spirits on certain things like this, and that's why it's not recommended to work with certain elementals or go into those realms for too long, because the way they impact your mind and the way they impact your behavior and your emotions. Okay, good when you have balance and work with them. But if you're working with too much of a certain element, it can start to impact you. It can affect your energy. So we want to stay balanced when we're working with these energies. You'll see that on our altar. We put things on our altar to represent fire, air, water, earth, and spirit. We put that on our altar, because we're bringing these energies into our work. We know the magic and the assistance of elemental energy. So that's what we're doing. That's why you need to have some things up there that represents those elements. It needs to be balanced up there. Okay, you can go and work with into these elemental spheres, which I've talked about that. We're gonna go more into that with giving you options on how to communicate with these elemental energies. Thank you, Tico. Thank you, Tinico. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so let's go on. So Jinn, in some places mean just literally fire. Okay, so you can see these energies every time you're lighting up your candle, every time you're at a fire pit. You're looking at these energies. You're looking at spirits. You're looking at these fire spirits dance all around. Okay, if you look close enough, you know you might see a form. You might see a shape or a form. These are spirits, these are energies are real. We wouldn't be sitting up on the altar. We wouldn't be trying to go out and hug trees and sit out in nature and be working with plants or anything like that if we didn't think that they were alive or had some type of energy to offer us. So you know that they are real and they are alive. When you're lighting that candle, the fire is helping you manifest the spell. And you're just, again, imprinting your thoughts and your petition upon the fire to help you carry it out. That's why I say every magic is not for everybody. You might have magic where you just use incense. You might have magic where you just use jars. You just might have magic where you just use dirt. You might have magic where you just use powders. You might have everybody magic is not the same. You might have layers on your magic. Some people like layering their magic with a variety of different, things they do to do certain work. Okay, so just because you see it on here, somebody show it to you, doesn't mean that is the magic for you. The magic that's going to be for you is the magic that your ancestors show you. If you try to look for somebody to teach you something, that's not yours. That's not your ancestral magic. That's not your art. That's not your creativity. And you don't know what spirit they're working with to do their work. Because believe me, they're working with some type of spirit. They can stop playing with me. And sometimes I be knowing what it's a spirit, and y'all take it and run with it, and then you wonder why it didn't work for you. Some spirit told them to do that like that. Did your spirit tell you to do it like that? Did your ancestors tell you to do it like that? That sometimes that be the problem, people. Okay, they're not gonna tell you that, but I'm gonna slow you down and tell you that your work is gonna work when you follow your work. How does physical things such as candles and it create elemental magic because of the fire? You're putting fire in there. How you gonna burn the candle and get in contact? When you start again accessing these realms like that, you instantly start uh accessing higher intelligence and higher realms. That's what you're lighting that for when you set the intention. The fire knows that. It's like you can program water and water have memories. So you can with these other elementals. We wouldn't be using them if they didn't help. You wouldn't be using graveyard dirt if it didn't help. You wouldn't be using bank dirt if it didn't help. If it didn't have any energy on it to help you, you wouldn't be using it. Fire is an elemental energy. Fire is an element. Do you not agree, keeper of keep it with me? Do you not agree that fire is an element? You're not using fire. How does physical things such as candles, etc., create elemental magic? Fire. Fire. You gonna put the candle up there and you ain't gonna burn it? It's gonna connect you with fire. You're using fire. You put water up there, you're working with water, you're working with water. They already showed you that water is alive. When you talk to water, the molecules in the water change. They already told you that plants are alive. They respond when we talk to them and everything. They already showed you that fact. See how magic, what you calling magic, is a scientific fact. And then when I take you in to this, all of a sudden I'm talking outside of my neck. Yes, science has proven to you that these things absolutely does. But when I say it up here in this context, I'm talking outside of my neck now. I'm lying. That's what I tell you. This magic is a science. I'm sorry they present it that way. We just talked about acting, how they channeling on the right in front of you on these movies and telling you that it's acting, but these people totally channeling spirits in front of you. That's why you believe the character that they're in, because they're channeling. Okay, you even got that on TikTok now. They these people develop all types of characters for themselves. They're different people on their YouTube channel or TikTok channel than they are in real life. They'll let you know, oh, that's just a character. I'm not like that in real life. That's just for TikTok or YouTube or whatever. And some of y'all, believe it. Y'all believe some of this stuff until they tell you, nah, I'm not really like that in real life. That's just a character that I'm in. Okay. It's just like that man played that role in Why Did We Get Married? And Jill Scott played his wife. And the man was on TikTok. Now, the man just played the part. And he was on TikTok talking about his real life. And the people were still judging him about how he did her in that show. And some people in the comments just like, hey, that's the movie. That's not him in real life. But people were still talking about him like, they were still, judging him and criticizing him and insulting him based on that movie. And he talking about his real life and y'all talking about what he did in the movie. Because he played that part. He'll forever be known as that. That's why a lot of these people, these actors, you have Lisa Ray say it was hard for her to get a good gig after playing Players Club. Because those are the kind of parts they kept trying to give her after she played in that movie. So you got to be careful with the parts that you play in different movies, because sometimes you'll get stuck in those characters if you play them too good. That's what the industry gonna keep on trying to hire you for, because that's what you channel the best. That's what they see that you channel the best for them. Is this making sense? That's why you have some actors say, "I don't want to play that part," because that's not me. I don't want to do this because that's not me. They don't want to even try to mess with that energy, play with that sort of energy. You have some of them like that. Okay. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm gonna break it down so you can take the ooh la la out of it, because the people doing it right there in front of your face, but they calling it something else. I've already told you that magic is all around you. You don't know. You being pulled in, being programmed, and they been calling it something else. Just like that witchcraft, you think somebody doing, we doing dark magic, but they doing it on you in church every time you go to church. Yeah, 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 yeah. We already talked about that. Okay. We already talked about egregores. We already told you that. That's why you crazy. That's why you can't think for yourself and all that sort of stuff. That's why I get you over here and start slowing you down so you can really start monitoring how you're feeling and what you're thinking. That's why the girl from The Exorcist was the type of cast and stuff. See, that's another thing too. They said a lot of stuff happened on that show, Exorcist, when they did that movie. They said all types of crazy stuff happened. That's why I tell you, go back and watch um the background or after the movie sort of documentaries with these stuff, because these folks gonna tell you after they did that movie or whatever, because their life got raggedy stuff started happening to these people. I'm telling you now, they have to channel this stuff. Hollywood do a lot of research on this stuff, And they know when they start acting that they're going to be channeling because what they go into character. Okay, you saw that on Deliverance with the Lee Daniels movie because they start channeling, acting and channeling because it got to be real. They got to make you believe it's real. They got to call those energies there. That's why they tell you you don't have that star power energy. You don't have that sort of energy. You don't understand energy. Can someone bind themselves to a past to your past life? No, you can see somebody for to your at your past life to this past life. Okay. Okay. So again, they are doing it in front of your face, but they're not calling it that. Okay, you go into these ceremonies and rituals every time you go into a concert and all that stuff. There's a ceremonies and rituals that's happening there. Don't you think these people are not doing this because they absolutely are doing this? I already showed you this. Okay, they're doing this. They did summon something in an Asian movie? I don't remember which one though. And all that is about. That's why you see a lot of them get into that. They'll get into magic real quick. The musicians and the artists, because art is spiritual. That's why I had to tell my. I just had a meeting with the with some of the members over there the other day, and I had to tell them your imagination is the key to the astral realm. It's through your art how you're gonna get there. Okay, Viola Davis is a good example. Somebody in here, Viola taps into energy and channels those roles and people. Yep, Viola she is a good example. Bruce Lee and his son Brandon Lee. See, they taught rituals of self-defense. Yeah, it's that goes deep with Bruce Lee. They say he was divulging occult secrets and stuff about martial arts that he shouldn't have been divulging. And there are self-defense spirits as well. It's a trip when you go into that because you got total spirits like spirits that help you with that sort of development. When it comes to protection, physical protection, there are spirits that help you enhance your chi when you're doing self-defense practicing martial arts. That's a whole nother type of occult though. It's a trip when you start looking at it. I looked at that. I was like, what the hell am I looking at? But yeah, that's a thing. Yes, the spirits that help him fight are the ones you can knock the wind out of somebody with touch. Interesting. Okay, that's a total different thing. They go into that's a whole sort of different occult knowledge when you go into those sort of spirits that are helping you with martial arts, helping you develop your mind, um, helping you with self-discipline. That's a whole different martial arts. That's why you have to go to school for it. You know what I'm saying? That's why martial art it is a spiritual thing that's going on with them. Okay, it is trip you out if you start looking at it. All the things they could do, all those moves that they're doing are like mudras, calling on different spirits. Let me shut up, cause see this what got Bruce Lee messed up. Okay, so them moves and stuff that they're doing can access different spirits and stuff, different forces, different energies, brings up certain types of chi. I'm gonna stop right there because I don't know enough about it to keep talking about it. But these are some of the things that Bruce Lee started divulging that they were upset about that he was not supposed to be divulging. Okay, these are some of the things that but you will see it in some of their books. Not many of them talk about it. Yeah, your ancestors protect you too, but like I said, martial arts is really they call it self defense, But the ones that's been practicing the ancient practice of it, it goes a lot deeper. It really does. Okay, when they say link an intro into a tap into your powers, what do they and how do they one tap into Lincoln? Teach us, Miss Penny. So again, this is all about self mastery. That's why when I give you your astrology chart and you're looking at that, and I'm showing you all the gifts and showing you the work that you have to do. And what am I doing there? I'm helping you get in alignment with this so you can tap into these attributes, your inner world, so you can tap into your inner world and manifest them in your reality because that is the magic that you came here with. Some of you in your astro chart, you have a variety of elements depending on where you were born, how many placements you got. You might be good with working with water. You might be good with working with earth. You might be good with working with fire. It just all depends what you came here with. You got some people just good with working with a variety of different elements. That's why you'll see hoodoo look different in different families. Some of them just did root work, earth, where they only work with herbs and things like that. Some of them work with fire. Some of them work with a combination of things. Some people just work with saints and spirits. They just work with angels. Some people just work with scripture. It just looks different for everybody. And you won't know until your ancestors tell you, hey, I need you to do this. And you ask them to help you, and they might help you to put together something, and it works. And that's the indication on the magic that you should be focused on. I know what people showing you, what they telling you, and I know this is not a popular truth. But in order for me to properly mentor you and for you to see success, I have to slow you down so you can start looking more into yourself. That what needs to happen. You stop looking at other people and look at you. These people ain't gonna help you. Just stop it. Stop it. I'm gonna always tell you to look at you. What is inside you? Stop asking other people's stuff. That's what's getting you crossed up and messed up. Because you won't take a time to sit down and listen. Be quiet. You won't take the time to get off social media for 15, 20 minutes, 24 hours just to focus on you. What you thinking and what you should be doing. Or even reading 3 or 4 scriptures for you even getting over here, getting your mind together. I really appreciate you. See you, sister. We are on our own medicine. You're speaking direct to me. Okay? Stop it. You're going to have to stop listening to people and all the fear mongering and the cursing. It's got to stop. You got to get somewhere and sit down and be quiet. Your ancestors probably been telling you the whole time, but no, you too busy thinking somebody better than you. Uh, I don't know what you got going on, but you need to be quiet and sit down somewhere. Hush your mouth. They probably been telling you that the whole time, but now you too busy trying to think somebody worshiping people. You gotta deprogram that stuff too and go inside because I'm telling you, what you see is not real. The only time you're gonna see something real is when you go on the inside of you and close your eyes. That's it. Thank you, and American Black women for reposting. Okay, that's the only time you gonna get the truth is you go within. Humans are flawed. You see that already. We sick in the mind. Okay, why would you think a human gonna tell you something truthfully without an ulterior motive? That's why I get you when you start doing that stuff with me and start asking me what should I do and all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna put it right back on you. No, you're gonna figure out, think, sit there and think what come up in your mind, what you think you should be doing, what's coming up in your heart, in your mind right now. You say I work with gens. I have seen them personal gens. Some people have talked to Jen. Okay. And I'm do it every time you start doing that stuff, cause I gotta get your mind right, cause your mind's sick. You thinking somebody else know more than you. What should I do? And all this? No, 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 no. You came here with the answer. The answer in you. We got to get you to asking yourself this and start get your intuition working. Asking yourself questions. Because it's in there. You won't sit down long enough to be quiet. Okay? And I know that makes some of y'all mad. I don't care about you being mad. You don't need nobody to give you answers. They already in you. That's the problem right there. I'm gonna give you everything you need to access what's going on inside of you. And every time you start with that outside kind of crap, I'm gonna point you right back to you. Have you got somewhere and sat down somewhere? Because if you did, you wouldn't be looking out here at other folks. You already know what you got on the inside of you. But why are you sitting up here following these? Get somewhere and sit down. You came here a sovereign divine being, and you think somebody more divine than you. Some you didn't. We got to get that back. Okay, so get somewhere and sit down and be quiet. If you don't know who you are, that's what's going on there. Because if you did, you wouldn't be too easy to give your power away like that. Okay, and I know you ain't gonna like it. Hello, just got here and snap it. Okay, I know you ain't gonna like it because that's something new. You used to people loving to tell you what to do and talk to you crazy and humiliate you. I'm not that. I come here to show you you. 'Cause you ain't seeing you. Okay, I have to let you see who you are because you got it mixed up. You do, and I know that make you mad because you want somebody to show you something and tell you what to do. I am not that. And you claim you want to be following the spirit. That's what you need to be doing, not telling you what to do or nobody else. That's the problem. Ever since we had a middleman, we've been messed up ever since. Okay? Now there are some good folks out there that can guide you. There's some good mentors. But all ultimate is your relationship and path with these spirits and nobody else's. And stop trying to give it to somebody else. That's your power. Okay, I'm gonna remind you that every time. I know you're gonna get pissed off at me, but at the end of it, you're gonna be proud of yourself. And you're gonna say, dang, I didn't know I can do this. I can really do this. Miss Penny was right. What was I thinking about? Yeah, what was you thinking about? Okay, I got to get you to seeing that. Peace and spiritual energy blessings to from my baby Oshun and her dad Lamar. Okay. I always say these mentors are steps, but not above them. They need their own inner voice to speak. Yes. Okay. Most mentors position themselves as middleman and people never connected sour internally. No, no, no. I don't recommend that because every time you go, I know when you're used to that because you'll start asking me, what should I do? And I'll be looking at you, what are you talking about? What do you do? Did you talk to your ancestors? I'm gonna point you right back to them ancestors once again. Didn't we talk about divination? We went over divination. You was there. Okay, you got the material. Okay, so what divination you're using to talk to your ancestors? Because that lets me know I'm gonna put you right back to work where you need to be over there with them ancestors. Because when you're asking me this, I know you ain't doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you're used to somebody telling you what to do. And so I got to shift you again back to what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not gonna distract you. I'm gonna send you right back over there. As soon as you start asking me, because that lets me know you ain't got nowhere and sit down. You're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because you asking me about stuff you should already know. I've already told you to go over there and do that divination with your ancestors. Pray about it. Look for the sign. That should be going on there. Looking for the sign. Trusting them to show up and give you the sign. You're developing your relationship with them. That's what should be going on. Not come over here and ask me what you should do. Your ancestors should already be helping you choose the best thing for you. There should be a divination relationship going on. That's the first thing I start you with. I start you right on working with angels and ancestors and saints. You have so many resources there. Getting you started with divination too, because I know you can't really communicate. The only way to improve your communication with spirit is through divination. There needs to be some form of media, some form of communication going on there, a catalyst for communication. Yes, they've been coming to me in dreams. I gotta find the divination on your YouTube because I missed the TikTok live. I think we did a workshop in our community and we're getting ready to talk about divination again. So we've did workshops on tarot cards. We provided many so much information on divination and we're getting ready to post it again. You'll see me sometimes recycle topics just to make sure I'm keeping you uh keeping you in alignment with the work you need to be doing. So sometimes I'll repeat a topic. And sometimes people learn differently. I may say something differently in that lecture or in a post that gives you an aha moment. And you start putting more things together depending on how I talk about a subject. It might something in the subject that I talk about in a different way might put some things together for you. It happens. And so you'll hear me talk about it. So don't get mad when you see me talk. Say, Miss Penny talking about it again. Yeah, I'm talking about it again. I got to. Because I don't know who is for and who is going to help. Okay? They came to me in dreams last night. Very tall, dark brown skin, and happy. Good for you. Thanks for sharing it. Recycling topics is needed. This is a deep subject matter. Seeker knowledge. Okay? Jen, I want to get off topic again. So then you have the Jinn that's called Jan or Jan. Among the oldest categories, sometimes described as the proto Jinn. Early stories describe them as beings of desert and wind and fire, suggesting a hybrid elemental nature. So now you have them calling them Jan, Jan or Jann. Now they're describing Jinn as elementals, and you're gonna see that in that book. That was confusing me. I was like, this ain't what did you y'all done put stuff over here that ain't supposed to be over here, you guys. And this is not that. These are elementals. This is not a fire spirit, you know, how they are describing them among the Arabic culture. Okay. Fire jinn are not the same as demons, not the same as ancestors, not strictly angels. They are elemental spirits in their own right with their own nations, hierarchies, and cultures. And you're going to see that in the Summoning Spirit book because you have a king over that dimension. Okay. I broke that down for if you're in the conjure, this makes sense to you because you got the book. And I broke the book down to you and showed you these different um elementals and the different dominions that they're over. Okay. So you have this. I've talked about this. But for the beginners, to keep it light, I'm just going to stay on the fire spirits and the Jinn. Because y'all not ready for that. Some of y'all think y'all ready for conjure. Then I start giving you stuff. And y'all looking at me crazy. Y'all looking at me crazy like, what? Yeah. What do you think is going on over here? When we talking about conjure, what do we think we talking about? You get a little taste of that when you're doing root work and working with them elemental spirits. Okay? When you come out of conjure, I just give you the spirit. Right? I mean, it's rawest form. Okay? When African spiritual traditions traveled to America, fire spirits evolved within a new context, reflecting the collective history of struggle, survival, and resistance. In the Haitian voodoo, the petro spirits carry intensity of this fire. So now, when you go into voodoo, that's why you have hot spirits in voodoo. Those are aggressive spirits. They are associated more like fiery spirits. That's what they call them, fiery spirits. So when you're looking at the petro spirits in voodoo, what are you looking at? You're looking at fire spirits. They're very aggressive and they work very fast. And they will tell you you have to know how to work with them. Why? Because these spirits work so fast, and I'm sure if you work with them long enough, because you're dealing with ancestor spirits that are warriors, that believe in justice, and some of them left this world in a not justified way. And so you have to be very experienced. They will tell you that if you're going to be working with these hot spirits. Okay, we've seen that among the saints too. I believe too. It's just my opinion. Other people may be different, but I believe there's saints too that have that same sort of energy when you start working with saints. Some spirits, even though they're not considered under those terms as fire spirits, I do believe that there's some spirits like that that are very aggressive and fiery and get the work done. You'll see that, like I said, the Mars energy like that. When you're working with the energy of Mars, you're dealing with fiery, aggressive spirits. They're the best. I think they are the best one to do like road openers with. The Archangel of Mars, those angels right there, depending on if they work with your zodiac and the placements you have. Again, you can work with the energy and the intelligence of Mars. Those are aggressive, hot spirits. So again, making sure you're looking at the spirit, the personality, the energy of the spirits or the energies that you're working with. It's really going to help you how you tell you how you should approach the work and how the work will unfold. Okay, who works with Leos? Please. You'll have to get over there. Go do you got some research to do. So if you want to know that, I recommend that you go do some research on that. Which archangel is over Leo? Shows wealth checklists. You got some research to do. Because soon as you start inquiring about them and learning about them, you start opening yourself up to work with them. So I recommend that you start doing some work in that area. Look it up. But of course, if you get in our community, you get all that stuff. Okay. You get all that stuff, how to work with them, how to set up your table, what's their favorite herb, what's their favorite color, how to invoke them, how to call with them, what psalms you should be using to invoke them, what scripture you should be reading, what is their favorite metal, what is their favorite stone. You get all that stuff over there. Okay. If you get over there, I give it all to you because again, this is the way we set up. We don't use a Western occultist approach when working with spirits. That's not how our ancestors did it. And we use a spiritism approach. You'll see that be a popular approach among folk magic. We use the style of spiritism to call on spirits. And we break down spiritism over there so you can understand that. Okay. On Patreon, I'm sorry, baby. On Patreon in our Spiritual Roots Hoodoo community on Patreon. Okay. That's where we are. The link is in our bio on YouTube and TikTok if you're interested in that. Okay. So you have some homework to do, but we do break all that down. And I think I talked about that the other day when I talked about when you'll see it for yourself. Because I already know this. It's crazy how my mind works. It's just crazy. I'm sometimes I be wondering how do I be knowing stuff. But I get you right over there with working with archangels, your ancestors and saints. That's what you need to be doing. If you're just beginning, the only thing that you need to be doing is protection work, defense work. When you first and doing a lot of healing. That's it. You perfect that and get consistent at that, then you can start, you know, you can start venturing out and ask ancestors what kind of magic, telling them what you want and how they want you to do it and things like that. But for the first part, if you get in here, if you don't know how to lay nothing down and you sitting up here trying to do magic and you got these altars up and you ain't got no brick dust down, you ain't got no horseshoes up, You ain't got no railroad spikes down at your house, no salt, no fiery rod of protection, and you sitting up here just calling. You're not ready. You got to go back to the beginning because now you out of line. You put the cart before the horse. Yeah, I offer that. I offer tarot card readings and astro readings where I look at your chart and break down the root work, you know, the shadow work, the things that's in your chart you should be looking at. I break it down hoodoo style. And then I do tarot reading as well. I also do a spiritual counseling or a life coach counseling as well. So I do have a variety of services when it comes to things like that. Hey, Argon. Okay. So let's move on here. So I've told you how our ancestors were working with petro spirits. They are often invoked to break oppression, heal spiritual wounds, or catalyze rapid transformation. Their rituals involve flame, smoke, rum, hot peppers, gunpowder, emphasizing the heat and intensity of their presence. The fire here is both symbolic and energetic, representing ancestral rage, resilience, and the catalytic power to burn away obstacles. These are hot, fiery spirits. They work very, very fast. These are the same spirits that were used uh, to help them get their freedom and liberation. That Haiti used. They use petro spirits. Did you know that? Did you know that Haiti used petro spirits? They used fiery spirits when they went to war. Did you know that? They used the petro spirits. Okay? That's what they use. They use the fiery spirits. In Louisiana hoodoo, fire spirits are similarly invoked in hot works to protect, empower, and transform candles. Transform. Candles, incense, heated herbs are used to attract their attention, work with their energy. Fire spirits in this context are deeply connected to ancestral power. This is going to make sense in a minute, you guys, so hold on. Acting as agents, protections, and change. Practitioners often report their presence is felt as sudden heat, flickering light, a surge of internal energy. These experiences illustrate the fire spirits in the diaspora retain both their elemental nature and ancestral memory. You also have herbs. You're working with fire spirits too when you work with certain herbs. Certain herbs are, again, associated with elements. You have cinnamon. Cinnamon is associated with fire. You have ginger. Ginger is associated with the element of fire. That's why we use it to speed it up. Cayenne pepper, again, associated with the energy of fire. What is it doing? Speeding things up, making it helping it come to fruition. So you're working with when you're working with these energies, any in this little way. This is why our ancestors they understood what these plants do and what type of elements they were associated with. They knew what to do. If it's gonna make it hot, it's gonna move fast. Or it's going to repel it. Okay. So you have certain herbs too that are associated with fire. You got cloves, dragon blood. A lot of people love using dragon blood in their work. Did you know that it's associated with the energy of fire? Some people don't like doing no work without dragon's blood. They gotta have some dragon bloods, incense, resin that they really don't like. You have people like that. Okay, you have some people like that. And so I'm just breaking it down for you so you can understand the energies of these herbs and why we are using them. Why your ancestors was using ginger, why they was using coffee. They use coffee too to speed things up. What does coffee do? Coffee again gets you going. It is to wake you up, to wake things up, to liven things up. That's what coffee does. Okay? You can do it for protection too. Some people use coffee for protection. You can use you'll be surprised. I've seen some people use coffee in a variety of ways over there in our community. I was like, wait a minute, you can do that? They was like, yeah, that's what my ancestors told me to do. I said, is it working? They said, yeah, it's working. Okay. So you'll be surprised, when they telling you to do something. That's why I say you need to follow your ancestors because sometimes you don't know a herb do a certain thing until they tell you. And then you find out later that's how they were using it. But don't know not a lot of people know about that. They'll start revealing you knowledge that, a lot of people don't know that they were using. How do you even use coffee? How your ancestors tell you to use it. Some people use it in their work. Some people, use it when they're doing their work, dressing their candles. Some people use it for bathing. Some people use it to smudge the whole house with. They'll burn it like an incense and smudge the whole house with coffee to run out anything evil. They ain't got no sage or nothing else. They'll use coffee. That's what our ancestors had to do. Use burnt coffee as incense. Some people burn. I know I do. I burn cinnamon and clove as incense. Depending on what spirit I'm working with, I might mix it in the incense and burn again cloves or cinnamon to invite those spirits in. So you get creative when you're doing your work. That's why nobody need to be showing you. You need to be sitting down looking at these herbs and seeing how you would use them. Because when you do that, you are accessing ancestral memory, your own ancestral memory. But as long as you follow somebody, you want somebody to tell you anything and everything, you're going to continue to keep crossing yourself up. You're going to continue that. If you gonna continue, you don't want to put your face in the book and sit somewhere and get somewhere and be quiet. Prepare to be crossed up. Prepare. If you're gonna keep following people and all that stuff, you looking for somebody outside you to help you access something on the inside of you, then prepare to be disappointed. Prepare for that. I put coffee in a return to sender jar to make it go quick, but I also stir prayers in it in the morning. That makes sense. Iron sharpen iron though. Okay? That's what you have to do. You want to be following people and think this person gonna do it, but I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to show you. Gonna make you upset because you ain't gonna, you got all the resources there, but I'm gonna point you to the work. I'm not gonna let you escape that. You cannot go past that. There ain't nobody getting past that. I don't care what these people telling you. Folks are sitting down somewhere. Real practitioners are sitting down somewhere and being quiet. I don't care what they telling you. They are sitting down, being quiet, reading their scriptures, doing their research, meditating, healing. That's what these folks is doing to make progress. I don't know who you think you is. Think somebody can give you something and that's gonna make your life magically be perfect. No, it's not gonna happen like that. Okay? That's why I give you all the resources. You hear me tell you something? I'm not gonna tell you nothing I can't show you. That's why you'll see me go through all those books over there and take you right to the chapter or right to the paragraph where I said that. I said I ain't making this stuff up. I let you see it with your own big beautiful eyes. Ain't nobody making nothing up. They said it so you can start accepting that's how that is and start getting yourself together. I'm not making this stuff up. That's why I come here and we go over over the science of it. I'm not just talking outside of my head. We approach this as a science and not no magic, what you think folks done told you what this is. We approach it like our ancestors was. This is a science. There's no sense in being over here showing these people this stuff and they don't understand how it works. Okay, so that's what we do over there. Okay, hey, Argon, I hope I spoke to you, Argon. Hello, single boy. I hope I'm saying the person name right. Ooh, y'all know I'm country. Okay. Allspice too. Another fire. Again, associated with the element of fire. Allspice smell good when you burn it as an incense. So y'all start messing with me, and you be like, "Damn, Miss Penny who doing everything?" Yes, I do. I burn herbs as incense to call on these spirits because they are spirits inside of the herbs. When you start looking at me, I'm gonna be looking at you. Gonna be doing something totally different. You're gonna be like, I ain't never seen it before. I know you haven't, because this is me. This is what I do. I don't know what other folks do. I don't care what they do. This is what I do. This is what I understand about my magic and how I use my creativity. I don't care what other people do. I'm only interested in how I practice my magic and how my ancestors moved me to do it. I don't care what other people do. They can inspire me and say, I never looked at that perspective. Maybe I'll incorporate that concept in my magic. That's how you build on it. But to take all what they're doing and say, I'm gonna do that, absolutely not. I don't roll like that. You'll hear me say that in your books, in your conjure books. Even though they're teaching you how to do work, I don't recommend that you follow it to a T. You need to make the work your own. That's theirs. Make it yours. Okay. What Seeker of No say, yeah, it's tons of books there in the community. It's so many books there. So many resources there. I don't just give you something either and say, oh, read that. No, I give you an article and we go into a presentation where I go through the book with you and kind of show you the important highlights of the book to help you understand why we're looking at it. Okay, that's what I do there. Okay, you want nobody but need to be showing you something. If somebody's steady showing you something and you don't understand it, you don't understand what none of it. That's the issue. And are you supposed to be doing that? Did your ancestors show you that? Did your spirit guides, did your ancestors tell you to do that? Do they even want you doing that? Did you do a divination and because they might want you to do something else. They probably got something better for you. That's probably not even a problem. You probably need to change something, shift something. You don't know until you do a divination. Ain't supposed to be doing nothing without a divination. Most root workers or people doing work for you, they not gonna do no work for you until they do a divination. They really want you to do a reading first and then do the work for you because they gotta see if that's what you need. Are you telling the truth? Okay. And see too if there's any work you need to help them do because they should be giving you something to do too. Not only should they be doing work, you should be doing something too. Whether it's reading verses or helping that work go along too. You got stuff to do too. Just like the practitioner doing a part, you need to do your part too. Some people call me and say they got this going on. Especially if it's something, your energy is out. I don't mind. I'll give you some work to do. 3 or 4 days and say, call me back and let me know how you feel. I'm gonna give you the work to do because it's happening to you, right? I'm gonna give you the work to do before I even think about doing something like this. Usually you can do it yourself. You just don't do it. That's the first thing you should be doing when you feeling off balance and stuff. Is start taking care of yourself and start doing those baths. You start really understanding what those baths and things were about. I recommend you start doing it. You don't know self protection. You don't know psychic defense. You don't know how negative energy, you know, manifests and all that stuff. You just shouldn't be messing with magic. You don't have no relationship with your spirit guides or your ancestors. You shouldn't be messing with magic. You don't know even know the basics of something. This is a lot of stuff that cross people up. The main thing you should be doing is just healing and working on your energy. All that stuff is going to come. That's why you can't hear anybody. That's why you're not making contact, because you haven't got nowhere and sit down and be quiet. You steady listen to other people. That be most of what's going on with people. Okay. Another herb is hibiscus. Hibiscus is also red hibiscus. The flowers carry passionate, energetic fire energy. They're often used in love, vitality, courage rituals, aligning with solar and fire spirits. Okay, so fire spirits again. You're seeing two faces of fire. Fire is a beautiful thing when it uh, when we can use it to help us, but it can also be destructive energy if we're careless with it. So it's the same thing. It is the same thing when you are working with that element as well. So if you're in conjure and you're working with these fire spirits, or I don't know what your intentions are. Some of us just like to explore. That's me. I like to explore these different elementals and go to different astral realms and learn a little bit about each one of them. And that's usually what most of the occultists have done. Okay. Then you got some have went in there mesmerized with working with them, and they try to pull them into stuff that's raggedy, and there's repercussions for that. You can lose your relationship with these spirits doing that, because they do look at character. They're looking at your character, especially if you're doing root work and things like that. Now, when you get over to conjure, that can be there is a lot of different variables playing when you get into conjure, because now you're working with individual spirits now. And usually with conjure, you are making you will find yourself in partnerships and having agreements with a variety of different spirits. Okay, so that is conjure. Conjure is, I recommend that. But if you have these altars up, and you're doing this magic without any assistance from your spirit guides, your ancestors, I think you need to reconsider and slow it down and really go back to protection and psychic defense. You need to go back to that instead of picking stuff up, because it ain't going to work if you don't know those basic components. We need to have a good foundation. Magic needs to have a good foundation, or it's going to throw you off. I was listening to this one girl, and I see that too. I want to talk about that. uh she said she did really good in hoodoo, but was tripping her out is that she was in this hoodoo group, and there was a lot of pale people in there, pale face people. You would see that. I don't know what you're doing, but anyway, the young lady, she was very good at what she was doing, and the pale face lady was kind of trying to hinder her. She said tripped her out. It just tripped her out, and she kind of got happy because more African Americans start coming in there in the group, and so she was liking it, because at first it was a lot of pale faced people. See, this is what I'm talking about. They know your stuff work. Why would these people, if they know your stuff didn't work, why would they be up here doing this identity theft stuff? Why would they be posing? These folks will sit up and mimic. have to show you when they knew that we was in the country and hoodoo, they started making all these fake knockoff products and started to come into the magic, even though they had their own stuff. You will see them running a lot of these ATR organizations and trying to initiate people of color. You'll see some of them be over the ATRs. Make me not even want to be over there because I'm not even supposed to be looking at you. I ain't supposed to be looking at you. You ain't supposed to be over this. Go read that story about the woman. Somebody was telling me, Annie Palmer. This is exactly why. That's exactly why. Took that and made that raggedy. So I taught her voodoo, and she made it raggedy, and it was hurting our ancestors with her raggedy stuff. And then you looking at me talking about do hoodoo work, or is they magic more powerful than ours? Why would you think that? And these people doing everything they can to fight to get in your stuff and act like they you. And you got to tell them a million times that it's closed, and then they mad. They ain't looking at the fact that that total behavior is racist. It's entitlement. Your ancestor made up a whole bunch of stuff just for you. You got a whole bunch of stuff to choose for that y'all made up that work for you. Hell, you got Alistair Crowley, you got Madame Blavatsky, you got all these people that coin spiritualism for y'all, created y'all spiritual renaissance, so to speak. And here we is, got our own stuff, mind our own business, created our own stuff for us by us. You got all that over here, and you mad because we got this little 10% over here that you can't be a part of. Although you got 80-90% of your stuff over there. It's boy, it would trip you out when you see it. A fire burning me every time I see that because you ain't supposed to be over there. It's the audacity for me, and you don't see it. Some of y'all have no African diaspora connection in your bloodline whatsoever. You have no, you know, for a lack of a better terms, because you have, Jewish mysticism up in there. But some of you guys, you would jump over here and you have no diaspora uh, connections whatsoever, no African ancestry whatsoever. You don't have any connection with us whatsoever. You're jealous of us, and then you come over here and practice our magic and think it's gonna work. She said a woman end up her fire a house end up burning down, burn her up and her whole family, trying to mess with her, hinder her. You need to leave stuff alone that don't belong to you. It's a trip how you can be comfortable with practicing something you don't even honor no ancestors. My thing is, if you're gonna get over here doing that, what do you do for our ancestors? What do you do for your community, for the black community? What kind of reparations are you paying for that magic? You need to be paying for that magic. What kind of offerings are you giving? It's disgusting when you see them over there in the ATRs, in the root worker. It was the hoodoo root worker ATRs. You gonna see them over there. You ain't gonna hardly see nobody look like you. Again, giving yourself spiritual authority over somebody. Is you crazy? I don't trust nothing coming from you. The hell? And you think you're gonna get me after you done painted all these angels white and made Jesus white? Made the aliens, even the aliens y'all go talk to, made them white too. I don't know I think they create these organizations and infiltrate them. I think they create. That's why I think they create those organizations and infiltrate them. That's why I do the because when you start making it an organization, they come in and try to infiltrate it. When you make it a religion and start doing initiation, what they do, they come in and they infiltrate it. That's what's going on there. I'm not teaching you nothing. Okay, that's what I have to say about that. Now let's get back on the fire spirits again. Now, when you're working with this Jinn, I won't say all of them are the same. And anytime that you are working with a spirit, because now we got we're talking about Jinn. It is important for you to monitor your thoughts and your feelings. Yeah, it's sort of Arabic magic. I would say, yeah, it is. Again, the Arabic culture has the oldest recorded history of Jinn. However, we start to see this span out into other cultures that start having experience with these fire spirits. So the Arabic culture is not the only people that have contact with the Jinn. Now, what I say about the Arabic culture start naming things Jinn that they could not explain. So that's when you start seeing Jinn take on another identity. So now you got to really look at the characteristics of what they're calling Jinn. Is this a fire spirit? Is this a wind spirit? Is this a ghost or a haint? Because now in the Arabic tradition, anything that falls under unseen is now called a jinn because they don't have another word for it. So they just gonna call it jinn. And it may not be the jinn that we are trying to identify with. That's why you have to really sit down and listen. Cause what is this jinn doing? Is it actually a fire spirit, or is this something else that they can't see, and so they're just going to identify it as a jinn? Does that make sense? I know a jinn called Alfred. A lot of people said they have come in contact with jinn. They can take on human form. Um, they can take on human form, and they are just smokeless beings. They go in it, and you see hear about that in Arabic traditions. They go on to talk about Muhammad. Muhammad had converted some jinns. They got jinns that they have converted into Islam. Um, they say they go on to live like human lives like us, but again, they have special, uh, again, metaphysical powers and access to things that we don't as humans have. They're said they're supposed to be the first beings that was created out of smokeless fire. And they have a very complicated, history like humans. In some people's story, I'm bad. I'm a bad person. I'm a villain in somebody's story, and then somebody's story, I'm good. Same thing with the jinn. Okay, same thing you'll see with some of our deities. With us, some cultures, like the Western civilization, they look at our ancestors, our deities as bad, but to us, they good. They just bad to you because you can't control them, and you don't have any ancestral connections to them. So now you can't control it. Had to get removed through Haitian voodoo. I had to get it removed. What is that? What you have to get removed? Arabic men sent a jinn. And see again, a jinn again with Arabic when they're calling a jinn, for them it just means something that they cannot see. But for me, when I'm looking for a jinn, because you said that that you were the ones who recorded the first smokeless fire beings. So that's what I'm looking for. And then as you go on looking for this, it goes on and they just start categorizing things they can't see, haints, elemental spirits, sylphs, anything like that. They start categorizing them as jinn. Okay. And you start realizing real quick, wait a minute, this is something else. This is not, they're calling this because of this. Okay. So the context changes. The context changes. So that's important to know. And if you're going to be working with these jinn, if you're going to be working with these fire spirits, if you're going to be working with the element of fire and working with these fire spirits, it's important for you to make sure that you know your own thoughts and emotions. And a lot of this is going on. We got people practicing stuff and they don't monitor their own thoughts. They let thoughts consume them. They emotionally triggered by anything. Your emotions just all kinds of energies are feeding off you because you have poor nervous system. Your nervous system regulation is off. Your emotional regulation is off, you know. So you're missing a lot of spiritual communication and messages because these things are not together. Because that's how these spirits gonna communicate with you. If you would just get down, get somewhere and sit down and be quiet and stop looking on the outside of you for the answer, because the answer is inside you. It ain't gonna be outside you. It's your journey. It's not gonna be outside you. Okay, so it's important for you to slow down because this how these spirits is going to be thinking. That's how they're going to be communicating with you is through your thoughts. Every thought that comes to your head is not yours. A lot of these spirits are going to be communicating you through thought, through telepathic communication, and through clairsentience, through feeling. How you're feeling. What vibes are you picking up? Now I get a lot of people that can pick up vibes really good. That can communicate with spirit through vibes really good. You get some people that the spirit will start putting images in their heads, where they'll start seeing flashes of images and pictures in their mind, or they might start accessing different memories in your mind to communicate with you. But if you're not paying attention to your mind, you don't know nothing about yourself. You don't know nothing about yourself. You too busy trying to find out about how other people doing, how Ursha life is, how Brandon life is, what Ray J got going on, what Nicki Minaj got going on, what Cardi B got. You know them folks more better than you know yourself. You know nothing about yourself. We know about other people's business and all that stuff better than we know about our business. You ain't gonna see how hard it is to focus on yourself until you have to. Until you see how much you want to keep distracting yourself from yourself, and you see that you your biggest obstacle, you your biggest ops, because you in your own way. Ain't nobody else say they got a curse on me. Sometimes ain't that, it's because you in your own way crossing yourself up. Ain't nobody got to do nothing to you because you do a good job of messing your own self up. Okay, so if you want spiritual communication and you say that, this is what you want, this is what this is. So don't get over here half stepping and thinking that you're going to make big success by putting in little effort. Because these spirits watching you. You can try to front with me. You can front with me all you want to. I can do this and I'm this and this and that. You can front with me all you want to. You see people all the time get these titles and call themselves, I'm priestess this and priestess this, and I got initiated, and what they do? Make a fool out of people and take your damn money. And you thought just because they had a title in this world that they was gonna do something for you. And that didn't mount to a hill of beans. And you back to square one and confused and mad. And you paid all this money and you ain't got nowhere near where you thought you was gonna be. I'm just gonna tell it to you real. Okay? They taught you about initiation. I'm sitting up here telling you, look, the initiation don't start till your ancestors start. You make contact with these spirits. That's what they're trying to get you to do, and some of them don't even do that for you. They're not doing what they supposed to do. Okay? And so if you're going to be working with these energies, you're going to be working with water, you're going to be working with fire, it's important for you to understand how they communicate these spirits, even with your ancestors. Your mind has got to be right. And if you are somebody you haven't worked on your temper or something like that, and you think you're going to work, with a fire spirit, it might agitate and make it even worse. You it'll probably throw you off balance because you haven't gotten your temperament under control. You haven't gotten your aggression under control. So it may manifest in you in a very, negative way because you were already out of balance when you start working with these energies. You already had too much fire energy in you. You didn't dissipate, you didn't get rid of a lot of those wounds and rages and stuff. So now when you start working with these energies, they might trigger those wounds because you hadn't worked on them. Does this make sense? Did that make sense to you, what I'm saying? Mhm. You'll get some spirits like that too. They'll entice you based on your weakness. And you have some people, you'll see that too when people start conjuring. Now they got a spirit with them because they wanted wealth and all this stuff so bad. So now they got this contract with this spirit. You understand me? That's why I tell a lot of people, you want to be careful when you go up there and conjure. You don't know what you're doing. A lot of people go in there because some people just can conjure, especially if they're musicians or they're artists or anything like that. And if they want fame and fortune are bad enough, they will start again making these contracts with spirits. I don't recommend you do it, and you need to know what you're doing and have good intentions. It has its place, but it can be abused like any other thing. It can. It has its place. It's there for a reason, and you just will have people that go in there and abuse it. Is it the spirit fault? No, because that person again, they use free will to go into an agreement with the spirit. They did that. So you can't really get upset with the spirit because you chose to go into a contract and agreement with the spirit. You got some people that marry spirits. You'll see that in some ATRs where they will marry. You got some people that marry Azurli Freedom. They marry some of these deities. What are you doing? That means you're going into a pact, you're going into a contract with this spirit. Hey, LMA, that's what happens. And you will see that too. I see that too a little bit, you know, when I see some of the ATRs, I think that's a lot of what's going on why some of them be flipping out that are smaller branches of what they call so-called EFA. I have to question the things that they're doing there because the way they flip out and trying to get people initiated. What are you doing there? Why are you trying to initiate everybody there? What you doing? What kind of rituals are you doing? And again, I don't have enough access to your mystery knowledge to really know what I'm seeing when you're doing something. I really had the information, but it appears to me that you're doing something. You're making some type of pacts and agreements that that probably shouldn't be made because you don't know what you're doing. You done learn a little bit of something, and now I have to question what you're doing. That's basically what I'm saying. Because the way you be acting and the way you are too gun ho to get people initiated into that, and the way you act when you see some of us develop relationship with Loas or Orishas without being initiated, you lose your cool. It pisses you, and this is ancestral. Absolutely this is ancestral. I don't see how you think that's not going to be possible when all of this is ancestral. That trips me out with you guys. And because I know religions, we just talked about egregores, and see when that becomes a religion, that becomes something else. As I already that I already put that down for you. So again, using your discernment, you too when you're going into that. Okay, gauging your mind, getting your mind and emotions. You're not gonna know how much your mind and stuff was being programmed and controlled until you start to decolonize it. And you're not going to know you're doing stuff unconsciously, because when I see you coming to me and you're confused, and we have went over ancestor veneration, you have all the materials there to set up your altar, and I have repeated this to you several times, uh how it's done, and then you're still confused. That lets me know that have not been doing the work. There's no reason for you to be if you're in our community. If you're in our community, spiritual roots hoodoo community, there's no reason why you should be confused. There's no reason. It's too many resources over there, and I'm always interacting with you. So there is no, if you're confused about something, it's because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, or you're making that choice to stand there and stay stuck. That's your choice. It ain't gonna change until you change. It's like researching someone before you meet them. Yes. And once you start researching these spirits, you already calling them consciousness, because you're tapping into their mind. You got to remember they exist on the conscious frequency. So they can feel and they know when you are reaching out to them and learning more about them. Okay, because you're already again calling them into your consciousness. And so you think too, some of these spirits outside of you, a lot of them are within you as well. That's why when you start accessing some of these things, because they didn't gave you the archetype. I've already talked about again, talking about spirits and things like too. We have to look at archetypes too in the collective consciousness. So because our ancestors understood this and have experience, because again everything that's recorded with our in our ancestors is recorded within us, so we get those archetypes uh byproduct because of our ancestors, because it was already in their DNA and in their consciousness, so it get passed on to us. So when these people are telling you, because they're giving you the demons, they have did this the psychological and scientific research on demonology, and they all agree that it is psychological. They all agree that these are intelligences without bodies, that they interact with us through our mind and mood. Now you can go and sit down. This is the stuff that you're missing here, that's hanging you up. You say you want to know about spirits, but then we start talking about it, you know, now you're scared, but you're doing it all the time. These spirits controlling you all the time. You're just unaware of it because you don't know yourself. Okay? We are villains in someone else's story, and we are heroes in some stories. That's right. Okay, that's right. And see, you're not going to know that. That's why I get to talking to you about these different personalities that work through people. And you'll start seeing it. Okay? You see a little bit of it when they repeat these same scripts over and over again, and you be like, "What the hell wrong with you?" That's the spirit. That's that programming. That's that. You had it too until you woke up, and said, "What the hell I'm doing?" Okay, why am I believing this stuff? Okay, and you see some of these spirits that work through people. You think that a spirit is gonna be a spooky or whatever. These spirits are posing as mental illness and personality defects. Social path, dark psychology. This is how these spirits are going to manifest. When you're working with, depending on the demon, because every demon is different, depending on what you're trying to do, when you're going in accessing these demons, okay, you got to remember you're accessing the darkest parts of your psychology. All of us got a demon and an angel in us. Did you not know? We got two parts of ourselves. That's why we do shadow work. We don't get rid of the shadow, we integrate it. We accept what it is. We accept us as our whole selves, as uh we have these frequencies inside of us that we can use to do things with. So when you calling on the demon as well, they're a part of you. It's a part of your psychology, because again, what they're gonna do come through your mind. When you exit them, you're going through the inner world. The niches talk about this when they start doing in the cultists. They're not telling you in this books, but they are doing path working and going into deep meditation to access these other realms and gateways. That's why you got to get somewhere and sit down and be quiet. They're doing this. They're not going to tell you this. We're going to go through another book. You should be getting that book really soon by Dolores Norwick. And she's talking about how she worked with the occult and walking them through paths, going through accessing these inner realms within themselves. So you think you ain't got it, you think it's outside yourself. It doesn't. You're gonna have to go within. I don't care what you're talking about. You have to get somewhere and sit down and go within your world. If your inner world is not together, because that's where the magic is, where this physical realm in this low dense reality. So if you don't know your inner world, you don't know your psychology, you don't know how to access these different things within you. What are you really doing? Because you're gonna have to go inside. I don't care what these people telling you. You got to get somewhere and sit down and be quiet. The magic is inside you, not outside of you. Try to get you to understand that. And when you start talking to these spirits too, again, whether it be uh a demon, a goetic spirits, they are a part of the collective consciousness, so that they are a part of you as well. You can start accessing them. Once you make up your mind, that's what you want to do. That's what will happen. Okay, that's what will happen. So you have to understand that too. When you are working with some of these spirits, you are accessing the highest parts of yourselves when you work with archangels. Depending on the demon, because like I say, they have mixed that up and put a lot of stuff on the demon that's not that. If you are accessing something like that within your consciousness and your mind is not strong, you have not did any healing work, especially if you're getting on the side where you're trying to do some justice work and work with a spirit such as a demon. I don't know. You can work with a saint and get that done too, but I'm just using this as an example because I don't know how far you want to go with this. You must understand that if your mind is not strong and you got a weak mind and you already depressed and all that stuff, you don't need to be doing that. You need to stay over there with root work. You need to stay with the angels and all that because your mind is not strong enough. People get over here and they start thinking they can do this, and then they go crazy, and now they schizophrenic and all this sort of stuff because you didn't do the proper healing before you start working with spirits. Don't get over here if you know your mind weak, you got bipolar, you think you got a curse on you, and all this sort of stuff and all that stuff. I recommend it. Don't go to conjure. Stay over there and do a lot of that healing and develop relationships with your ancestors, the archangels and saints before you start trying to work with a spirit. Because if you got that in your mind, you're gonna draw that. If you're on that frequency like that, they're gonna take advantage of you. They can see you. They can see that your mind ain't strong. They can see that you weak. You have poor boundaries and all this stuff. You're gonna just get carried away with that if your mind ain't strong. You had some people. What was the man? He was listening to Eminem, and the man unalived his wife because of the song. If some people can do that, they'll listen to a song to tell them to do something nefarious over and over again. And before they, because they have a weak mind like that, they have poor boundaries in their mind. They go out and commit the crime. Why do you think they put that in music? Because they know a lot of y'all got weak minds. You don't pay attention to what's going on. So what do? They put it in the music. They put it in the chant. And what you do, you start playing it and putting it in your spirit, putting it in your conscious, and there you go. You done committed the act. You lowered your frequency and welcome that in. That's what's going on there. And if they see you got a weak mind like that, yeah, they're gonna carry you off. And a lot of people shouldn't be doing conjure work or trying to do what somebody else's do when you don't have a good foundation in the practice. You don't have no spiritual protection. You just going out here raw dogging it, and I don't, raw dogging it with no protection or nothing, and then got your chest stuck out and think you the magician of the world. Some of y'all do that. Some of y'all do that. Ain't got no protection, ain't got nothing going on, ain't got no, you know, that's not how we do that. I've seen medication that schizophrenic people take. Lord, them pills the size of tater tots. Shake my head. And a lot of them, you have them that's being spiritually awakened, and we don't have the shamans or the ancestors around to help them navigate that inner world that they are seeing in their reality. So you got a lot of them are spiritually inclined, but because they done got rid of all the shamans and all, some of us scared to come out and all this sort of stuff. Uh, a lot of these people with these spiritual gifts, because all of them not schizophrenic, they're just able to see different dimensions and realities. They can't get properly they can't be properly taught because they didn't got rid of all the elders and the shamans and stuff. Or they don't know they need to heal and do that work before they start accessing uh you know accessing these spirits. Because you have some people, usually when people go into initiated into Ifa, or they are initiated into voodoo, ATR, and they've been a priest for a long time. I think we talked about that in one of our ancestral books that we covered, and I show you that the person in Ifa was talking about that. Is that Maladoma Somé who was talking about it? It was one of those authors in the book, because I show you this because I don't want you to think the ancestors. And I think the woman Mama Zogby talked about that as well. Mama Zogby talked about that in her book, The Sybil, how she got initiated into the Mama Wata practice, voodoo. She was going through a spiritual crisis. It was sort of like a schizophrenic crisis that these spirits kept coming to her, and she had to save all this money to go over there to align her with her ancestors and her gift of mediumship, because she was a medium, okay? And so her ancestors was leading her. She was going through a spiritual crisis. You have some ancestors that will make you sick. A lot of people, they do not want to be initiated, but because the ancestors, these spiritual gifts are becoming, becoming more and more active, their ancestors are forcing them to be initiated either into Ifa or Voodoo. It's not by their choice. Their ancestors make them do that. They don't be wanting to do that, some of them. You got some root workers. I knew a root worker that was telling me she did not want to do doula work. She didn't want to be a midwife. Her ancestors came to her and told her to do that. She said no. They made her sick and made her use the medicine that they taught her to use on herself to heal herself. And then they made her keep doing that work, even though she didn't want to do it. This is what her ancestors had for her. That was in her bloodline. So you got some people in these ATRs that that's not what they chose for themselves. Their ancestors want them to do that. So when I see that, and I see a lot of that, when I see that, that lets me know there's something ancestral going on, and they need to be up under an elder or an ATR. Now I don't know how many elders are in the ATR now. Just really, to me, it's too many young people in there that don't understand that. Uh, I wish the more older people of these ATRs would come out more and kind of talk about that. But I understand it because they don't want to talk about it because they say young folks is crazy. I understand. They don't listen to nothing. Some of us think we know everything, and we don't. And so they don't tell you. But a lot of them are up in there because their ancestors told them to get over there and sit down. That's what we want to. And then your child gonna be over here too. So you might as well tell your child, your son or your daughter, they're gonna be over here too. Because this is in our generational line is having a priest or a priestess in the practice in the family line. You'll have them over there. They don't want to be over there, some of them. Some of them mad because their ancestors put them in there. I'm telling you. Some are mad, they're upset, but they accept it because that's what their ancestors want for them. Okay, that is a lot of work. That's why I said you don't know what you're getting yourself in. They have to do a lot of work. It's not easy. They making it giving you a dream, a fantasy, because y'all love that stuff. When you get over there and having to do all that stuff and care for all those spirits and things like that, it's a way of life. And there's certain things you ain't gonna be able to do. It's totally different from what you think it is. You so loud right now. I'm sorry, am I loud? Because yes, similar experience. Okay? They're gonna take you over there. And you're gonna be like, huh? And you gonna know that they didn't want you to be over there because they'll have you come up with the money. It'll be effortless. They'll even come up with the money and everything to put you on over there. You'll say, I ain't got the money. All of a sudden they'll give you the money and get you over there. It won't be no struggle. It'll trip you out when it happens. You'll be like, oh my God, I'm really supposed to be here. They be like, yeah. Okay. And most of the people that I know that go through some type of spiritual crisis that go over there and their ancestors put them there. And you got some people born in that, they didn't want that for themselves, but because that's in their ancestral line like that, that's what their ancestors want, and they got to be in that. No, that means you're right. Oh, okay. Okay. And you're gonna see that. Okay, now everybody is not supposed to be over there. Everybody is not supposed to be over there, especially if your ancestors did not tell you to go over there and they didn't send you over there. And they're supposed to tell you that. They're supposed to get divination and all that's supposed to be done before you get over there and see if that's where your ancestors want you, or start aligning you with your ancestors. All of that supposed to be done for folks start putting you in stuff because all of it's ancestral. And then another thing you need to remember too: stop bypassing going all the way somewhere else to be initiated on that land, because you do yourself a disservice when you're not going to honor the ancestors on that land. You're going to a different land mass, a different sort of culture and ancestors. I tell people voodoo was already here. And the closer I look, the more I look at, because the people from Ifa, Yoruba people are saying in their books that they come from America. So I got to ask you again where the Ifa come from. Because some of them saying they come from America. And we know voodoo was already in the Americas. All of us had, all indigenous cultures have their form of ancestral magic, hoodoo, voodoo, whatever you want to call it. All indigenous people have that. You start looking at different cultures, going back further enough, you start seeing that every culture had their own ancestral magic. You start looking at folk magic, you start understanding that you like, oh, this is familiar magic, this is folk magic. You looking at hoodoo, what is hoodoo? Ancestral magic. You look at voodoo, what it is an ancestral spiritual practice. The closer that you look at Ifa, that's what it's supposed to be, but they made it a divination system because Ifa is known for its divination system. You're just getting in line with these natural forces, these forces of nature to help navigate your life. You're getting in the alignment of natural law with them because they work again with natural forces in nature, more with the elements. That's what you're doing when you're working with the Orishas. And it's more of a divination system. That's what Ifa they'll do. That's more what um they're kind of focused on there. Ifa also seems to have some similarity with Asian Taoism. Yeah, you're gonna see them Hinduism too. You're gonna see when you start looking at the ATRs, you start looking at again, you'll start seeing some of the Asian archetypes start to come up in there. It's really confusing. When I was looking at the ancestors, I was like, what am I looking at? Okay. Because when you start following your ancestors and you want to know certain things, they'll start exposing you to certain things. That's why I tell you to follow the ancestors, stop following these people. Because when I'm presenting information to you over there in our community, I'm presenting information to you because I follow the ancestors. I'm not worried about what other people is doing because a lot of these people are under programming. When I see people, for instance, when I see people come ask me, they'll probably ask somebody else. I'm gonna use this for instance. They might ask somebody, what is the difference in hoodoo and voodoo? And the person, I can tell when you have drunk because you got some people, even though they're spiritual, they're still under programming and they don't know it. And so when I see people go ask them, what is the difference between hoodoo and voodoo? And they say, oh, voodoo is religion. You got to be initiated to be in there. But hoodoo, it's ancestral. It's more of a magic or whatever. It's more of a practice. When I hear them say that, I said that's not totally correct. Because if this person stays in the hoodoo long enough, they're going to run into voodoo. What's wrong with you? It's ancestral. They're going to run into voodoo. If they follow their ancestors long enough, they're going to run into that. They might just run into the Orisha. What are you doing? We talking about ancestors now. And you telling them that they cut off from their ancestors because of religion. You see where the programming coming in at? I'm, I didn't drink that Kool-Aid, so I don't agree with that programming. You can have that if that's the Kool-Aid you want to drink, and that's how you want to set up your practice. Good for you, but that's not the Kool-Aid I'm drinking. Okay, look, somebody said in Obia we have their reach to Obia got all of it in there. All of it come from Obia because when you're looking at Obia, you're looking at the most primordial ancestral spiritual knowledge. You're looking at ancient primordial knowledge, and not a people had access to that sort of knowledge. And so when you're looking at Obia, I mean, when you're looking at voodoo, when you're looking at Ifa, you're looking at little branches of Obia. And that, we talked about that. We probably shouldn't be calling it that because the colonizers call it that to make it derogatory and make it ugly. But I don't even think that's what our ancestors called that. Just like our ancestors didn't call what we call today hoodoo, they didn't call it that. We got outsiders naming that. I was just watching a interview the other day. Somebody was interviewing the Indian people, people from India, and what's his name? Godfrey, the Godfrey comedian guy. Anyway, he was interviewing the people from India, and he was like, just like Hinduism, and he was like, and the Indian man said, "What are you talking about? Because we don't call it that." He said, "What?" He said, "No, we don't call it that because that is what the colonizers is calling our stuff. We don't call our stuff Hinduism." That's what that man said. He said, "You got outside people, same thing. Now, them people, they know what's the name of their stuff." He said it's more ancient and older than that. He said this is a tribal practice. And so from hearing them explain it from their mouth, you're getting it in its authenticity. But when you got somebody else naming your stuff and stuff like that, and you know that's not what your ancestors called it. Yeah, even the name Africa, they didn't even call themselves Africans. Them people didn't call them people's ancestors did not call themselves Africans. That again, that's a colonizer name. That's not even the real name of that country. Just like America, that's not the real name of America in that way. Okay, it was called Tamari. Then it was called Turtle Island. Okay, they came in there just like they came in there. Haiti had its own name. They came in there and started spelling that different. Because I think that name was Ayiti. Something like that. Ayiti, 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 or something like that. It was a different name. So you got these people, these colonizers coming in here renaming stuff. Hey goddess 314. They're doing that. And that's why I have to start having you looking at different things. We have to look at Mexican magic because that happened on the continent. These are the same people. They got you thinking they're different. No, they're not different. Okay, these are same ancestors that were known as the Olmec, the pre-Columbian civilization. You just have the French and you have the Spaniards coming in, colonizing the Americas, naming things different things. We're the same people. It don't change. You still got Afro Mexicans. They call it somebody. They from them people ain't from Africa. Them people been there in Mexico. You still got dark skinned Hispanics or Mexicans there, just as dark as me and you. A lot of them got kinky hair and stuff too. They didn't come from nothing. They would sit there and tell you, "Nah, we been here." Okay, so let's just cut the crap. And so I have to get you to start looking at these different things because the diaspora happened everywhere. And so you'll start seeing a little bit of your ancestor spiritual practice, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there. It's been there all the time, but you didn't know where to look. So that's why we look at those things. You ain't gonna find it following no person. Now I don't know if other practitioners, I don't know how they teach and how they approach, hoodoo. I have seen a lot of them try to approach it always from a Christian perspective, but hoodoo is not Christian, so it's not that. So stop doing that. And the way we use the Bible is for a grimoire. It is not, it doesn't include Christian dogma in it. Again, we're looking at it as a grimoire and a book of invocation. That's what that is. It is not associated with Christianity per se. I don't even like the fact that people say that we have Christian elements in hoodoo, you know, because they're associating the Bible with Christianity. But it's in there, okay? That's how they're describing it. Yes, and I hate that. I stepped away from hoodoo because of that. Okay, but it's not that. But when you start looking at hoodoo, you start to see it's got Hinduism in it. Our ancestors are, communicating and speaking with a variety of other deities. They might have a variety of different systems that they're working in their hoodoo practice. Okay, so it's not that. It's an ancestral magic. It is ancestral. Now we use the spiritual science, the theology, some of the Christian theology and philosophy up in there. We don't use the religion. Okay? Religion doesn't have a place in there like that. We don't use it like that. So we can't even verify the lineage part. I think it's so unfair, but I don't stay where I'm not wanted, so I moved on and made my own. Okay, but if I would have been listening to people, I would have still been, kind of stuck with hoodoo being Christian and limiting myself to approaching it that way. But I know it's not that. Okay, because of me following the ancestors, and when I want to know something, they direct me right over there, and then I find out that's in hoodoo. I'm like, what? But see, these people are sticking to the Bible and all that. I don't do that because, again, I don't know the approach to your magic and how your ancestors are going to have you approach it. So I give you you know the all hoodoo in all this form, and I don't give it to you just from one perspective, because this happened to us everywhere, and it didn't stop us for tapping into our ancestral magic. And so when I'm giving it to you, I'm going to give it to you in its totality instead of isolated place where it happened, because that's what's happening. You're getting hoodoo isolated, and it's just much bigger than that. Okay, our ancestors kept growing on it and growing on it. It just kept, and people don't like that. But that's the beautiful thing about our spiritual practice. They're meant to evolve and grow versus religions. They're meant to keep you stuck and stay the same. Them folks ain't growing. And see, that's and when mindset, when you come to hoodoo, you need to question yourself, because it was meant to grow. It was not, it's adaptable. You know that it ain't supposed to look like everybody's stuff ain't supposed to look the same. So why you get mad? Because it don't look Christian to you. That's the stupidest thing to me. Okay, so stop making it look like that, because that's not that. But that's a lot how they present it to a lot of people here, and I'm sorry that it's done that way. But you have a variety of ways that you can approach it. That's just like one of my members. She said she didn't want to do an altar, and I'll let. Before you know it, I think that was Precious Emerald. I think that's who that was. She said she didn't want the altar. They took her right over there to Hinduism, but she felt better with erecting a puja. What is a puja? Altar. Same thing. She didn't want to do no altar. He took her right over there to Hinduism, which broke down the whole practice and concept of that, and she felt more comfortable with taking that approach. She's still doing the same thing, okay? But she's taking a different approach. Is it still hoodoo? Absolutely, it's still hoodoo. It doesn't have to look like nobody else's. I wouldn't want it to. Okay. And so we have covered a lot of here. We talked about ancestors veneration. We talked about our community. We talked about jinns and how you're going to get the material over there, the conjure and the know thyself. As I always say, read the whole guidebook. Don't even mess with that until you go back and you have thoroughly educated yourself with the Summoning Spirits book by Costinos. I've posted that book several times there, for you guys to make sure you have it and go, because it's the best book I know. That's the truth. Now I know that book is the truth. I've worked with that book. Uh, it works so well. It's kind of scary, because if you follow everything in that book, you're gonna see some results. Something gonna happen. Okay, so I always send you back to that book because it's a very good resource in helping you understand some of these spirits and helping you understand your conjuring. It's a good guide in helping you understand conjure and a lot of these spirits. So I would recommend that you go back and you read that book. Then and they talk about jinns a little bit in the summoning spirit books. You're gonna see it listed over there as well. So when you go through that summoning spirits book, because I think they're listed under kings, elemental kings, or something like that. So when you go over there, look over that first, and then go back to Jinn book because it's going to give you more insight, okay, and help you understand it, and give you options or how to approach these energies. Can you repeat the name of the book, please? What book you talking about? Oh, the book that we're talking about is that we just did a review on is The Legend of Fire Spirits by Robert Lebling. That's the book we're talking about that talked about jinns. But the book is so controversial. The author that is writing the book, because now you're calling jinns, you're calling ghost jinn now. You're calling water spirits jinn now. You know, it is the description kind of gets out of hand because jinn are supposed to be known as smokeless, fireless beings. But when these people can't find out, for a lack of a better term, to describe an unseen entity or spirit, they're just putting it under the name jinn. So be careful with reading that book. Oh, Summoning Spirits. Oh, that book. Summoning Spirits, that book is by Costinos. You should be able to find it easily online. Okay, you should easily be able to find that book online. That book has been out a couple of years. This was an occultist who, who simplified communicating with these spirits. See, what the thing about occultists and the goal with them, you see them doing a lot of ceremonial magic together because a lot of them are working under egregore. They're pulling the source from the egregore, depending on how old the egregore is. Now you have a lot of people that want to practice solitarily. They want to access their own magic without that. So you'll still see them do ceremonial magic in the privacy of their own home. And so what he has done, he's made that very simplified. Therefore, you gave you simple techniques to access these spiritual realms and to help you start doing magic. He did an excellent job of simplifying it to you. Because if you follow all the exercises in the book, you're definitely going to see, some results with it. Okay. It's supposed to be closed, but I can't call that closed. I can't. It's supposed to be closed, but I can't call that closed. Is it? If you will let anybody with some money come over there and be initiated, that's not closed. That's not closed. That's a religion. That's not closed. And that they probably shouldn't describe it like that because you letting all kinds of folks come over there and be initiated. Closed mean that you don't close for hoodoo people. For us, when we're saying close, you have no ancestral lineage into this practice. This is an ancestral magic. So yes, it's closed. What voodoo is saying, now you got to come through us. You saying the same thing the preacher say. Now you got to come through us and be initiated and pay your money in order to come on these spirits. Well, hoodoo practitioners saying we don't give a damn about your money. We don't care. You ain't no money you can pay us to teach you this. Ain't no money. If you're not in our family line, if you don't have any ancestors over here, if you don't have that, then it's closed. And we're not doing it to be mean. We're doing it because it's too much work to do over here. Do your own stuff. But see, you have to really look at what they're saying. That's why I don't pay attention to them when they be talking about this closed. It ain't closed to me. You better tell them other people you initiated don't look like you that it's closed, but you ain't talking to me. I don't know who you talking to, but you ain't talking to me. I don't know who you talking to. You need to get somewhere and sit down and talk to your ancestors. You keep initiating people over there don't look like you. And talking about his clothes. You don't know what clothes mean. Y'all don't know what that mean. You can't know what that mean if you're doing that. Okay? You can't know what that you don't know what that mean. You don't know what that be operating that way. Okay? Close to hoodoo. You need to understand that when we're saying that, we're saying no, we're protecting our ancestral spirit to practice. No, we are protecting the wisdom and spiritual practices of our ancestors. We don't care about your money. This is ancestral. So no, it's closed. Okay? We can only do this. You are saying you're not in our religion. You ain't paid our priests no money to show you this. That's what you're saying. So you sound like the Christian folks saying that. So no, your religion is not. You don't know what that means. So stop saying that. I don't think you should be describing it like that because no, it ain't closed. You're saying to me, you ain't gave me no money to come over here. The same thing the preacher say. You ain't gave us no money for us to pray for you or help you. You ain't gave us no tithes and offers. You're doing the same thing. So I don't care what you're saying. You need to probably go relook at that. Okay. We've already covered fire spirits. You'll have to come back and watch our live stream. Go to YouTube and you can watch the whole video. We got through talking about fire spirits. I just covered that. I'm sorry if you missed it, but I covered that. Okay. And again, you're going to see, just to reiterate, you're going to see a lot of these elemental spirits within voodoo. When you're looking at La Serene, when you're looking at Yamoja, Oshun, you're looking at these elemental energies, especially when you're looking at the Orisha, because again, they're calling them natural forces. What are these? These are spirits associated with elemental energies. Natural forces of wind, of fire, of rain, of water. Okay, storms. You're going to see that. You're going to see a lot of those elemental spirits over there. Okay, that's another reason too. I don't know why they don't talk about it more, but usually in any ATR, they already start helping you with self mastery before you start working with these energies. They start helping you with self mastery and to get in alignment with your ancestors and doing their character work because they know how dangerous it is if you don't have good character, how that stuff will blow up in your face. That's why you got a lot of people over there now initiated in IFA and all that, and they did no character work and their life is raggedy because you shouldn't have been over there in the first place. Your ancestors didn't even tell you to get over there. You thought you was gonna get over there and be rich, and now y'all are pushing Ifa like the prosperity preaching in Christianity. People think they're gonna get over there and have control of spirits and be rich because of a title. That's what's happening there. Y'all better reinvestigate that because now it's getting crazy over there. But that's what happened when you start these religions. It was never supposed to be like that. Now, if you'd have kept it ancestral, it'd have stayed pure. But when you start doing that kind of raggedy stuff like that, you start tainting it. And I just believe the ancestors rolling over in their grave watching you do it like that. Okay, that's my take on it. You know, that's my opinion. It don't mount to a hill of beans if you don't want it to. Okay, aren't those elemental spirits much older than other spirits? I would say they are. Yeah, again, because they are forces. But we still can't ignore the fact that these elemental spirits are still, again, working in synchronization with water, fire, earth. We can't ignore that fact. Even though they're responsible, have dominion over these elementals. Let me put it like that: they have more of a dominion in the action behind the elemental energies. Yeah, they are older, but it doesn't dismiss the fact that they again associated with the elements. Okay, So you're seeing these, and that's why you're gonna see that go on and on and on. And why our ancestors were so good at root work, because a lot of them already had relationships with these elemental spirits. And in order to understand hoodoo, I have to talk about voodoo. It's ancestral. In fact, I just showed you the other day, if you keep on working with hoodoo, you're gonna run into voodoo. It's just no way around it. So that when people be trying to tell you, hey, it's girl, boy, their ancestors gonna run them into that. You need to prepare them for that, because that's gonna happen. Because they go to working with them saints long enough, they're gonna run into voodoo. So just stop it with the cap, because all of it's ancestral. They're asking you this because something is happening. Because more than likely, if you're asking me this, I know your ancestor ran you into voodoo. You in hoodoo and they done ran you up, smack dead up. You're gonna run into it. There's no way around it. In fact, in order for me to get you to understand the spirits in hoodoo, I gotta talk about the spirits in voodoo in the in Ifa. I gotta get you to talk about, because these are the same energies. It didn't change. It's the same ancestors. What are you talking about? See how programming do it? And I noticed about the programming. Programming tries to divide everything instead of bringing the similarities in things. They love to bring the division. You can always tell somebody who's been thoroughly programmed like that. They like to bring more division into things than similarities, and showing you the connections. They don't want you to see the connections. No, 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 no. They want to see you the division in that, because that keeps you disconnected. And it did, and they can see the similarities right there in their face, and they will ignore it. Okay, and I'm gonna sit there and show you the similarities, and you're gonna be having some aha moments. Be like, oh, why is that? Yeah, I'm gonna show it to you, and you're gonna be like, oh my god, this is almost same. Yes, it is. Well, why is they saying? Because they got a religion, so they got to say that. That's the doctrine that they got. Doctrine ain't nothing but, to me, but a deception, the type of ideology. They doing it in there to protect their religion. Okay, so you got to be able to, know what they're doing, know what they're putting down. And just because you think you're getting out of Christianity and you jump over there and you're going into another religion, so the shenanigans will be there. Okay, so don't get over there and say, they didn't go my way and they did this. You jumped into another religion. What you think was gonna happen? You jumped in one frying pan into another, and you thought you was gonna be something, experience something different. Once you start putting a lot of people in stuff, and putting people in your spiritual journey, expect a lot of shenanigans. Expect that, because those spirits is operating through them people. That's what you said you wanted. Then now you mad because you waiting on these people to help you, and you didn't put your spiritual journey in the hands of these folks, because you said you wanted to jump into a religion. That's what you're gonna get. Because you said you want to follow people. You didn't want to follow no spirit. That was too much for you. Yeah, I ain't want to do it. I don't want to put in the work. Ah. You gonna want to put in the work after these people take you through hell. I have to laugh at it. And some of y'all be mad. I've seen too many videos. Y'all be mad because y'all done had to go to this. Y'all done went over there to this God house and had to get this godmother and had to go over here. Y'all be mad. Y'all look like y'all tired by when you finally get it together. You look like, damn, I finally got here. That's how they be looking. Because it took them a while to get themselves together and get comfortable in that religion. But that's what happens when you start putting your fate in the hands of folks. Because folks, they going and you trying to get with a spirit and they trying to make that hard. It ain't really hard. But because you dealing with people, because people are flawed. They are. You don't see that. I don't care. They could talk a good game, and they start seeing that you have these spiritual gifts and talents in you, and you will start to see the because it's a religion. You're working with the egregor. They start seeing you and seeing what you got going on, seeing that you tell they'll start trying to slow down your progress. Cause people are flawed. And then you mad. And you know this. You said you wanna it just don't make no sense. You said you want to get in contact with spirit. Why you keep following people? What the hell wrong with you? I have to laugh at it. I have to laugh at y'all sometimes. Cause you say you want to follow follow spirit. Why you keep following people? That's then I'm instead of trying to get you to follow a spirit, and you instead of trying to follow me, and I'm instead of pointing toward the spirit. You don't make no sense, y'all. You just looking at what you're doing. Listen at what you're doing, cause that's why how I know our mind be sick. You know what I'm saying? My mind was sick too. You know, I know your mind's sick. I know it is. It ain't your fault. No, I'm not blaming you, but I'm trying to help you think. You know what I'm saying? So you can make better choices for yourself. I've been there. I had to laugh at myself. Don't make no sense. And then you mad because that person didn't help you with the spirit. And this person don't even realize they're a spirit. These people still think they human. A lot of them. Okay? That's what I said. Once you start following the spirit, you was you start you start knowing what you're doing. Okay, that's that because these people are fooling you. Okay, their eyes is fooling you. Y'all already said it's a simulation. Y'all already talked about NPCs, and a lot of y'all know about this stuff, but you keep falling for the okey doke. You keep falling for the okey doke, like you know this is a simulation. You know that people, are flawed. You know this, but you keep falling for the okey doke. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna let you do it over there. I'm not gonna let you do it because I have to get you used to following the spirit and trusting your intuition. And every time you start, looking outside yourself, I'm gonna put you right back on you, and it's gonna be uncomfortable for you, and it is scary because you so. Am I gonna make the right choice? I'm gonna. It's this about trusting yourself. Okay. I wish you would have met me 10 years ago. Would I have been ready? Probably wouldn't have been ready as I am now. We're right on time for each other. Okay, I don't think I would have been ready 10 years ago as I am now. Okay. Yep, it's the Summoning Spirit book. You ought to see it there. I've posted a couple of times. If you're in the Conjure or the Know Thyself, I've posted it a couple of times for you. If you're in the Know Thyself membership or the Conjure membership, you've gotten that book a couple of times, and you probably said, "Damn, she posting this again." Yes, I'm posting it again because it's so helpful. You're gonna see me go back to that because I'm not posting it because it don't work. I'm posting it because it absolutely works. And I'm posting it because it's an absolute good reference if you're going to be working with spirits, especially when it comes to explaining ceremonial magic and Solomonic magic. I think that's a good book for that. Okay. And there's a lot of Solomonic magic, high magic, and kind of meshed into some of our stuff. Okay. Yes, divine timing. I'm right on time, honey. I don't think I would have been in alignment, maybe 10 years ago. I probably had a lot of work to do, but yeah. Okay, so you're gonna follow that spirit. So stop following these people, and they showing you something. I think I'm not blaming nobody. I think we're really trying to help each other as much as we can, and we don't realize that the most important thing is us having a good foundation for the work. I think we kind of need to slow it because I have to slow you down there. I got some people that's already doing stuff, and I'm like, why are you? And they don't have an ancestor altar. You have some practitioners are mentioning all this stuff, and they never is talking about ancestors, and that should be front and center. You shouldn't be picking up nothing, doing nothing. You don't know nothing about protection. You don't know nothing about cleansing. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. You don't know about you don't know how to cleanse yourself. You ain't healing yourself or none of that. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Because you ain't gonna do nothing but cross yourself up. Master that first. Make sure that you can start working on yourself, healing yourself, using these the spiritual modalities and healing practices for yourself, protection practices first. Make sure you can master that first before you start talking to your ancestors about doing magic. Make sure you understand the power of water. Make sure you understand the power of fire. Make sure you understand the power of earth. Make sure you understand the power of air, your breath. Make sure you understand that first. You don't understand why you sitting up saying that scripture 7 times. You don't understand how that works. And so I have to tell you the whole time you're saying this, you're you're shifting frequencies and vibrations with your voice. You're calling it in. Okay? And the more you're saying it, the stronger your thought forms are being. Not only should you be saying it, you should be feeling it because everything is frequency, is vibration. It's not enough for you to just to say it if you're not feeling it because what is it called? Emotions. This is why I'm telling you to get your emotions in check. Okay? If you can feel that thing, what's moving? The emotion. The emotion, because now you're feeling it. You're on the frequency, you're feeling it, you're thinking it, you're saying it. Now you're in alignment with the work and now you're pushing it along. That's how it works. It is a science. My old church not once talked about healing yourself or dealing with trauma. Just Jesus fix it for you. They don't have any spiritual science in there. It's just a whole bunch of doctrine of ignorance. And some people are very pleased with that. I just broke that down. We talked about egregor. You can show them people the truth and tell them the truth and show them the truth in that Bible, and they will still turn into Mr. Smith on your ass. They still gonna glitch. They still gonna glitch because they love the doctrine more than they love God. They don't love God. They love the religion. They love the doctrine. Okay. I had one lady up there. She was homeless. She was parked on the church parking lot and she was living out of her car. This hurt my little heart when I seen it. And so she thought to herself, this is a safe place for me to be right at church. I can sleep in my car right here in the church lot and I'd be okay since they help people anyway. That makes sense why she would think that. So the lady, she parked over there. And honey, no, them people try to them church people put her out in the name of Jesus. Told her she couldn't park her car there and all that. When I say you need to demolish them, I mean that. Told that lady she couldn't stay there. A building full of ignorant people. And that lady that needed the help, and honey, and she probably had more God in her pinky toe than they did in that whole church. And they say, you understand that this is what y'all supposed to be doing. And that lady, you can't be here. This is our church. And I said, you raggedy people, you'd have made that into a country club. You put personalities before principles, and you think God like that. You raggedy, and I hope. Look, like I tell you, you know what I do with them. It'll be a lot of stuff on fire. If I had the power, it'd be a lot of stuff on fire. A lot of stuff wouldn't be in there because you ain't doing what's right. Okay, they need to be demolished. I'm brainwashing center, and that woman never. You can see something wrong with her, something matter with you. Something evil, sinister is going on there when you're looking at the spirit of these people. And I have to ask them, what are y'all doing in those churches? Do you know what spirit is controlling you right now? Because you are not for the most high. You're not for the great spirit. You're not doing the work of the great spirit. You're up under something else. Something else is controlling you. You're up there pretending, faking and jiving and all that stuff. You playing with yourself and you capping. And if it ever wasn't, that's what to me, you're going up in there to serve hell, because that's what it looked like, a whole bunch of hell, because a bunch of y'all is in a living hell sitting up in there. Your life's still raggedy. You raggedy. You doing raggedy stuff. You don't want to look at yourself. You just ragged as you want to be. Need to be healed. Got the lady up here. I think I posted it on my TikTok. This woman that made her whole sermon about not putting your mouth on folks. I don't put my mouth on my husband, and I don't want my husband putting his mouth on. That's none of that's anybody. This woman sit up here preaching it, and nobody told her in that church to get somewhere and shut up. Ain't nobody said, well, take us to this in the Bible, because God ain't got nothing to do with that. You telling on yourself because that's something you want to do or you've been doing, and now you want to tell everybody your business up here. Girl, get somewhere and sit down. What do they got to do with me? Yeah, ain't got nothing to do with people about their bedroom. If that's what you and your husband have agreed upon, y'all don't want to put y'all mouth on each other, then so be it. But get out of other people's business. They ain't got nothing to do, and that's not in nowhere in nobody in that Bible nowhere. You sound like you hot and bothered. Okay, that's what it sound like. Or you done lost your frazzle dazzle. That ain't our problem that you lost your frazzle dazzle and you want to come in and hang out. We're not interested in knowing nothing. That you aren't telling anything to help people's spirits. Okay? And you up here, you look raggedy doing that. And I don't see why don't people won't tell you what's she called it? I think it's called the Eden Church or Church of Eden or something she supposed to have. Uh the people they just tell you. I don't know why your folks won't tell you. This is how brainwashed and stuff we are. Somebody can come in there and preach about apple pie, and we'll go along. Oh, that pie's good. Come on, get that pie. We won't go with that. They can preach about apple pie, and we'll amen that. They can give you a little bit of nothing, and y'all would you let them harness all your energy. It's happening now. You can't say you don't do it because I see you do it now. I see you do it now. That people don't deserve anything, none of your energy at all, and you will host. You just give them everything you got, and ain't did nothing for you. I'm a rockin', so I know about gens. What about you? Know about gens? I'm really curious. You know what, Luna? I don't know much about gens, but what I do know is when I was reading about these gens, looking at from the Arabic perspective, it first started out being called smokeless, fireless being. Okay, you know they were known to be associated with fire, but as it go on, this term jinn tends to take a broader definition of a jinn. So now a jinn is a spirit you can't see. It's a haint now. It's sylph now. It's an elemental spirit now. The term seems to just grow with the jinn, you know. And so my intentions with looking at jinn was to identify these fire spirits, not to identify every spirit I don't understand as a jinn. And so I see a lot of that going on when I start to looking at in this particular book. I don't know if that's what how you guys look at it, but that's definitely what I've seen. If you can't explain what an unseen spirit is over there in Arabic culture, we just call it a jinn. You know, I think that's unfair too to do that. I don't think it's fair to do that, and I say that because you're seeing that done to our ancestors too. Because you can't control the spirit, you don't understand this spirit, so you just gonna put it over there. I don't think that's fair to do that like that. That's gotten a lot of people messed up. Yes, and I grew up knowing that there are good and bad jinn. Just like she said, Luna said it first, I said there's good and bad jinn. Okay, so when you start working with these jinns as well, uh, ask questions, be safe. There are good jinns out there. However, what I've noticed when I was doing research, because they did that with us too, with the voodoo dolls. They made the voodoo dolls and everything about our magic look spooky. Well, when you're looking at these gens too, and you're looking, they made them look bad. Okay, they got to sensationalize this stuff, and so you got a lot of them too that and that could um that could influence your choice to work with them. But I come here to explain it like that so you don't get caught up in the hype, and that you'll really understand these energies, and it too that you've been coming in contact with them unknowingly, and our ancestors have talked about them. Okay, so when we're looking at Shango too, you're looking at a fire spirit, that he was a real person, but now he's associated with the element of fire. Shango was an actual person, a king, later being deified, and now we associate him with the element of fire. Okay, talked about that. The voodoo spirits, we have fire spirits over there. Petro spirits, they call them hot spirit, fiery spirits. You'll see that in voodoo, and they will tell you do not mess with these fiery spirits unless you have been properly trained to work with fiery spirits. Now, I'm telling you, once you start working with these fiery spirits for any elemental, for that fact, because you might want to go over there and learn more about the water spirits. Who knows? You might want to go to their realm, learn some things from them. You probably want to work on your intuition or work on your dream state. And you probably want to work with them. And they probably show you some really good stuff. Okay. And like I said, the water spirits, they are so messed, get caught up in them, and they mesmerized by them. Yes, they are beautiful spirits. They're easy to work with. They are mesmerizing. But you cannot be in those realms long, because what's going to happen? Illusion and delusion. That's what happens if you're staying in an element for too long and you're unbalanced. That's why we have to always go back to ground into earth. It's just like if you do too much earth magic, you know, which it's less likely to happen. But say you're going to the plant kingdom, if you're going to the earth, it's going to slow everything down. It's more denser. It's more slower. So you might feel a little bit lethargic if you're spending too much uh, time with those sort of spirits. You might feel a little bit lethargic, a little bit sluggish. Okay, so it's going to impact you in some sort of way. So making sure you stay balanced, and if you're going over there visiting, let them show you something. I'd always recommend, if you're doing path working and you're going through there in the astral realm, projecting yourself over there and communicating in those dimensions, don't stay over 30 minutes at the most. And I always go over there with your guardian angels and your ancestors. Your ancestor guide, your spirit guides. I always go over there with them. And when you go over there, wait for a guide. Don't go over there and start, they'll go in there and start walking around, and no, sit there and wait for the water spirit to come up and guide you around the dimension. There's so many ways you can do this. Some people use the path working of the tree of life to access these things. Some people use their chakras to access these different elements, because you can see some of the elements throughout your chakras. Some people use the tree of the world tree, where they go into the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world to access these dimensions. It's all dependent upon you. Okay. With the Jinn, I bought a Jinn oil from and Conjure Woman, and oil fused with Jinn. That's interesting. That's interesting. Mushrooms work too. Okay. But again, you go into the different realities. I don't recommend you stay there more than 30 minutes, because they'll start showing you stuff and you can get a little bit mesmerized. Okay? You can get really caught up and impressed upon because of their magic, and you be want to go back and ask them to do more stuff and more stuff. You can get more dependent on them, and it can kind of throw you out of whack. Okay? They don't mind working with you if it's for development, if it's for something positive. They don't mind working with you, but you have to keep in mind too, you can't spend too much time in those elements, because they can affect your mood and your mind. Okay, I'm talking about the science here. I'm talking about the science. Okay, I'm telling you about the basic science here. And so when you're working with a Jinn as well, we're talking about Jinn and fire spirits, going back to that. Take your time visiting these places. And I recommend that you go back to the Summoning Spirits book because he teaches you exercises that start getting you familiar with going into these realms. He give you total exercises, um, comfortably go into those realms. Now, and we're going to be talking about path working. There's many ways you can do this. Now, the Summoning Spirits book, that book works so good. Now, take your time with that book, okay? Because that book works so good, it might, you know, it might scare you how good it works when you follow the exercise. So prepare yourself for that. If you follow the exercise in there, you're going to get results. Okay? And so I like that book because it kind of slowly carries you in there so you can get familiar with those astral realms, those dimensions of and those spirits. So that's why I like that book. You'll see us always go back to that book because it's a good reference guide and it has so much information in it. Until I can find another book, I haven't seen one yet, and we've read a lot of cult books. You guys know we got cult books over there, 100 years old. We have went over Cornelius Agrippa. We have went over John D. That looked at incarnation magic, looking at angelic magic. We have looked at Eliphas, what's his name? Eliphas Levi Eliphas. I just go on and on and talk about the different occultist work that we have went over there to break down this work as a science. We've even went back to ancient Kemet to look at that to show you where all of it come from. Okay, so you're not going to be confused if you're reading the materials, and it's just so many materials over there and resources over there, and the way I break it down, I don't see how you can have be stuck somewhere. If you're stuck, it's because you're not being motivated to do what you're supposed to be doing. Okay? So we thoroughly break that down for you. Thoroughly break it down for you. Okay. So if you have any issue, you have a question about that book over there, because I know it's crazy over there. You're getting it ritual memberships because I wanted you to get familiar with fire spirits. And I was having a hard time. I be trying to find resources that's particularly about these different elements. But they seem the only way, I see that we can understand them too is looking at some of the orisha and looking at some of these elemental spirits that's in our practice already. I think our ancestors did a very good job of categorizing some of these spirit and helping us understand how they work, especially when it comes to the orisha. We understand more about wind, we understand more about fire by seeing them personified through some of these orishas. Okay. So that's why we go over it as well, and for you to understand what is root work is. What is root work? Because when we're looking at root work again, we're looking at elemental magic. That's what they would be calling it. Okay, that's the term that they will be calling natural magic, elemental magic. So when we're looking at root work, you're looking at elemental magic. We're working with plants, we're working with herbs, we're working with fire, we're working with water. That's more elemental magic. Root work, that's more of that. We're going to be working with saints, we're going to be working with angels. That's more root work. Okay? Now conjures when you just full out working with a spirit. You have relationships with these spirits. Okay? And some of these spirits, depending on how you work with them, for some people, they bad. For some people, they good, depending on how you work with it. I'm still having problems logging on. I think I need to try logging on a laptop. If you're having problems with that, please call help desk. Now I have submitted some tickets to Patreon for 2 members. And I think I sent you guys some emails with updates on that. and also ask you to reach out to Patreon help desk. I'm so sorry y'all having problems. I don't like that. I don't like it when you have problems because you shouldn't be having them. I'm so sorry. But reach out to the help desk if you continue to have problems like that. I've reached out to them. They're supposed to be reaching out to you guys because I've given them your emails to look into your accounts. Okay, but if you're having problems, reach out to the help desk. And I don't like that you have problems. And if I could fix it, baby, I would fix it. You know, but reach out to them, make them fix that. Okay, Miss Penny, I can just look at it and kind of see where you got a membership. But honey, I ain't got no buttons to push or nothing like that to help you get up in there and get what you need. I'm so sorry that's happening. Okay, so reach out to help desk, Patreon, help desk, and that's their job. Okay, is to help you get up in there and make that right for you. And I'm so sorry. Does anyone have any questions? Because we covered a lot. We talked about gens, and we'll be coming back here soon. I think the next subject I'll probably be addressing is scrying, and that's another option. People do it. Some people, they do good with doing scrying through, whatever medium that they choose. But we're going to talk about scrying when I come back because maybe that's an option that you want to choose. You know, you want to learn how to scry, but really helping you understand scrying and the process of scrying and the different options you can use for scrying. It's not as hard as you think, but it takes with all of anything on the spiritual path. If you're a person that wants something to happen really, really fast, then this path ain't for you because these spirits look at time. Okay, so the more time and the more self mastery you could do, the better your relationship was going to be with these spirits. And if you thinking they're going to do something fast for you and all this sort of stuff, and people have tried to do this and they get mad and they go over there and conjure and start working with something else and they mess themselves up because they do not want to invest the time and slow down and do this. So they'll start working with a spirit and start conjuring. And then their life all messed up and jacked up and it's raggedy. I don't recommend you do that. Okay. Will you put the day and time on your page for that, please? I would try to put it on there, baby. I will. I just bought one, so I don't want to miss it. Okay, I'll try to put it up here. I try to post it. I didn't know y'all be watching it, but I'll try to put it up here, baby. I will. Okay. I'll try to put it up here and let y'all know when I go live. I didn't think y'all be watching because I feel like I've been um look like I've been what you call that thing. Look like I've been blacklisted or something. Been blocked on TikTok because I'm not getting many views or stuff. So I'm not sure if you guys are seeing my TikTok videos or what. So I don't post that much on there. And then plus I'm not a social media. The ancestors be telling me to sit down and stop doing stuff. You will see, that's what I say. A lot of these practitioners are not on social media because a lot of their ancestors telling them to sit down and stop doing stuff. Because I do something, they be like, "Oh, we don't want you doing that. Get somewhere and sit down and get over here and meditate. Go over there and go read that Psalms over there. Open up this book because we want you to look at this right here. We got something else to show you. Now, we don't care what them folks doing on there. They don't mount to a hill of beans. We're gonna make sure the right people, you know, get to the message. We the one to make sure the message get there. Social media ain't got a damn thing to do with us getting the message. We're gonna get the message to anybody if we want to, whether it's through social media or not. That's how they be talking to me. So don't you get caught up in that. Because whoever supposed to get our message and get our ministry, they gonna get it. We know what we doing. Don't you get caught up in that. Okay? And you get over here and you do this. That's what we need. You need you focus on now because we need your mouth to be saying this right here. We need your mind on this right here. So, I don't know how you could get caught up in social media being a spiritual practitioner because those spirits they have you doing stuff. You know, this ain't where it at. It's the spirits that's doing the work. Don't get caught up in here. TikTok ain't doing nothing. It's the spirits behind it. They control the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? So I try not to put too much energy into that because that's not controlling it. It's the spirit, it's the ancestors that controlling this. I hope that made sense. I'm different from you guys. I'm kind of particular and awkward, and I'm sorry about it. So, sorry about it. I'm particular and awkward, but uh, It's just how it is sometimes. They don't want me coming here. I be wanting to come here and do stuff, and they be like, "Huh, get somewhere and sit down. You need to go think about something. Okay, you need to go take you a bath. Go wash your head. Okay, you got something coming up. Why don't you think about that? Go into your community and see what's going on in there. Why don't you think about next month what you trying to what your community need. So it's things like that. So they really start helping you reserve your energy and focus on yourself. But you're always right on time. It's just what it is. So don't get caught up in that. I just can't do it. I can have that. I'm gonna post all week on social media, and the ancestors be like, no, no, you're not. You're gonna get over here and do this. That's what you're gonna do. That's not going anywhere. That's not even doing nothing. We even control that. So what are you doing? We even control this. So and some stuff we don't want you talking about. We have certain things we know when we want you to talk about it and how we want you to talk about it. So that's how it is with me. I don't know how it is for anybody else. I try not to, I try to follow the guidance. I feel safer that way because when I try to do something else I ain't supposed to be doing, it turn out raggedy every time. So I'm not trying to, I know about you, but that's how I roll. Okay. Anybody have any questions for me? I've kept you a while and I've covered a lot of things. Um, and I've talked about a lot of things. Does anyone have any questions for me? And if you get over there and you start reading the books, I've broken this down to you. So you might look at something and be like, Miss Penny, yeah, they have put everything under a gin that doesn't need to be there, and that's why I had to come here and make this video. Okay. And if you listen to my lecture, I kind of talk about that too in my lecture. But I do the live streams to help our TikTok community, to help our YouTube community, to keep them in the know of how our community rolls, what kind of resources we have over there. And maybe I'll say something in these live streams that gives you more insight in our community. Sometimes that happens. What Jen will deliver paper cuts to my enemies? You look. I think you asking the wrong question. I'm not gonna tell you that. You probably need to get somewhere and read the Psalms. Probably go need to read Psalms 91. You probably go need to go read a Psalms. That's what you probably need to go do. You probably gonna need to go talk to your ancestors and ask them what they want you to do. Get somewhere and sit down now. You trying to be a big dog, and then when that gin reach back and bite you, is you ready? Is you ready? Is you ready? Is you ready? You don't know what you're getting yourself into. Probably need to go somewhere and just read the Psalms. Something light. That person probably don't need no heavy weight on them like that. All they probably need is a little verse to put them on down, get them somewhere and sit down. Okay, so be careful what you're asking for. All right. Okay, you guys. I love you guys. If you have any questions, you know where I'm at. If you're needing an astro reading, let me put it. Go ahead and DM me. And you guys, give me your email. If you're emailing me from if you're DMing me from TikTok, please give me your email address when you contact me. I need your time, your date, your place of birth, and your email address. Okay, I need that if you're gonna DM me here on TikTok. Okay. Uh those astro readings are $15. The tarot readings is $35. I've been having people that want to book spiritual counseling sessions with me. Those are $35. Okay. So I'm pretty reasonable. Okay, so if you're looking for that, let me know if you want a spiritual consultation where you just say, "Hey, Miss Pina, I want to process some shadow work with you." Okay, we can book a consultation. Miss Penny, I'm stuck in my chart. I want a tarot reading with you. I'm kind of stuck. I need a shift. Can you help me shift? Book a tarot with me. Say, Miss Penny, I don't know. I got this birth chart. I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to be doing in here. I got this natal chart, and I don't know what the hell I should be doing. But give it to Miss Penny. Miss Penny will break it down hoodoo style, help you understand your chart, and you can start getting alignment with it. Okay, you might find you say, "Hey, Miss Penny, I got this extra chart, and you right, but this is where I'm stuck here in this placement on this chart. I don't know how to get out of it." And you're probably gonna want to book a tarot reading with me, so we can start helping you find ways to shift and give you some work to do to get out of it. Okay, it happens and happens and happens. So don't be hard on yourself. This is about getting in alignment. Nobody's perfect. I'm having to do work too. So you ain't the only one. None of us perfect. And somebody trying to make you think they perfect, they ain't. Okay, they telling a lie. Home just made me curious. Okay. So reach out to me if you need me. Love you guys. And next time we come here, we'll probably be talking. Let me double check here. I want to double check so you already be ready when I come here. And I will try to post the next live stream. I didn't know you guys wanted that. Let's see here. I'm looking at, what the next thing we'll be covering here. Yeah, it should be scrying. I'm not going to talk about divination because I've talked about that a lot, and everyone is different on what they vibe with. And so, but you're going to get a resource of talking about a variety of divinations. You're going to get a resource talking about tarot again. Okay. You'll see me recycle some of the topics because sometimes I'll talk about a topic from a different perspective and you'll get it. You know, everybody mind works different. They learn differently. So sometime I'll cover it again. So don't be upset with me. I'm just trying to make sure that you're getting it. Okay. So I'll be coming here soon and we'll be covering scrying. It's going to be an interesting topic. That's another form of divination um, that should be talked about. Okay. Because you might find yourself wanting to work with a spirit in a different way. So that's why we're going to talk about scrying. Maybe you don't want to go into the astral realm. Maybe you want to work with a different way on the astral realm. So that's why we're talking about scrying. Okay. I'm always recycling. So you hear me talking about some again. You might say, Miss Penny, talk about that again. Yes, I am. I'm talking about it again because we don't know who didn't get it. Okay. And then I might talk about it in a different way and you get it and be like, oh, no, I get it. Now she explained it this way. I talked about it that way. I never heard anyone talk about it that way. So sometimes, we learn differently. And if we talk about a subject from a different perspective, it helps us understand it. It just happens. Okay. All right. All right, you guys. I love you guys. And I will be talking to you soon. And I'll try to post that next live stream so you guys will be ready. Okay. All right. You guys take care. I'm glad you were able to see it too, Capera. I hope to see you at our next live stream too. Okay. You guys take care. Okay. Goodbye, YouTube family. I hope to see y'all